Okay. Hey, good evening, everyone. So I'm just back again, up to the usual kind of stuff. I'm going to just stream for a bit, see if anybody's around to dialogue, questions, comments, feedback on life. Doesn't necessarily have to always be heavy topics, but obviously my channel is focused on that. And I'm just going to read a chapter in Matthew and then talk a little bit about what I see going on in flat Earth and try and relate pretty much every chapter that I choose. I'm just kind of winging it, but I'll try and link it up with, things going on in the world, things that are relevant to, us day to day. I'll try and make it practical. The Bible does get a lot of criticism, and in my opinion, in many cases, rightly so, for being quoted and cited about things that are absolutely not relevant and applicable to modern day. But there are many aspects of it that are very applicable, and in fact tell us the exact ecosystem that we're living in and entering into, in my opinion, soon, very precisely. So I'll get started. I'm going to read Matthew chapter 15 and just go through it. I think this is an amazing interaction. I think a lot of the subtleties when Jesus interacts with people are not really brought out. And just the way I am, I always like to kind of put myself in people's shoes. The old saying, don't judge somebody unless you walk in their shoes. I always put myself, whenever I read these quote unquote Bible stories, in all the characters, shoes, and then try and kind of get a sense of the way they would think and react and all that kind of stuff. So that's typically the angle that I, just have approached the Bible for many years, and I'll try and give you that angle today. So, okay, Matthew chapter 15 reads, "Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread." So just right off the bat, this got me thinking again, I have to be careful because I don't, hey, Joseph, what's up, man? Yeah, dude, I'm just going to read the chapter quick and then we can talk about, politics and whatever you guys want to talk about. But if you know my channel, you know that I've stated that the end is, to me, highly unlikely to not come, longer than 5 years. But sorry, so this first couple verses here, where the scribes and Pharisees are challenging Jesus and his disciples and not washing their hands. And so the thing that I'm starting to again realize, and it's becoming for me personally very obvious, and I put this out there in case it's becoming obvious for other people, is that the resistance, the quote unquote resistance to the truth, and people who are Christian, we believe Jesus, or Yahushua, we call him for the dark skin, Jesus, he is like the embodiment of the truth. He is the truth, capital T and small t. And so the resistance to truth doesn't make sense. And so this to me also doesn't make sense, that in Jesus's time, there are these scribes and Pharisees who would just go up to Jesus and start questioning him about things about not washing their hands when they eat bread. Like, I understand that that's in the law somewhere, and it's a fair statement. Like, it's not a incorrect thing to ask that question, but it doesn't make sense to me why people would care. It's like, what's the purpose of like going up to somebody, and especially somebody like this who's not harming anybody in any physical way at all, in fact doing the opposite, healing people and all that, and then just making a ridiculous question like this. It's like, it's literally going up to like the smartest mathematician or whatever ever and asking him like basic multiplication table kind of questions. Like, it's just like, it's absurd, you know? And so I think that, to me, again, this is becoming very, very obvious, in particular now. Hey, Manny, what's up, man? Good to see you, dude. So I'm going through Matthew chapter 15 in case you wanted to follow. And I'm just going to give my commentary, and then just have a couple ideas, not ideas, but like, I want to talk about flat earth for a bit. And then, you know, we can talk about whatever you guys, you know, type or whatever. But yeah, the resistance to me just doesn't make sense. You know, it's like, and ultimately, you know, Jesus dying on the cross, that has to be an orchestrated thing, because no one would be that much of a busybody to like get in somebody else's life on these micro things, and even at the macro level to kill somebody, you know, like, especially somebody who's just, you know, healing others, you know, and doing good work. So again, to me, it's becoming very, very obvious that and the characteristic of the resistance truth movement, resistance to the truth, are exhibiting the exact same characteristics that, you know, are here. You know, it's like, you'll go on debates, and it's not necessarily purely a ball earth bash session, but like, you can see that like they're just nitpicking about stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with the shape of the earth. You know, like, you know, they should like literally not care about credentials or whatever and all that kind of stuff, and just like give us, you know, linear repeatable observations, you know, and things that we can do, and just, you know, help us get down to the root of the science, the underpinnings, the mathematical underpinnings for this ball earth belief. And so there's this kind of just nonsensical resistance to the truth that has existed, you know, even in Jesus's time. And in other places, the Bible says that the Antichrist has been in the world for a long time, you know. And so this is a anti-Christ, anti-God, anti-truth are all the same thing. And it's here now on earth, in my opinion, not just with ball earthers, but people who are, you know, supporting this government system, this beast system, which I feel will ultimately have the ambition to force everybody to, you know, embed electronic device into their body, called the mark of the beast. And so, you know, they're nitpicking, asking Jesus about, you know, their elders and stuff not washing their hands. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandments of God by your tradition? So now he's like, okay, you're going to get nitpicky. That's fine, you know, but he's like, well, if you're going to get nitpicky with me, you know, fair enough. He's going to like, you know, evaluate how they're keeping, you know, other aspects of the law. And so he goes back and says, why do ye also transgress the commandments of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, whoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. So he's saying that they're basically like, you know, pushing their own doctrine and going against the very commandments that they're holding, you know, Jesus's disciples to. And you know, this is why it is extremely difficult. Not even if you're like a scribe or Pharisee in this day, but even if you are sort of a better intentioned follower, it is very difficult because the Bible is very, the commandments in general, even the 10, the basic ones, like they're very difficult to keep, you know, and keep consistently, minute by minute, thought by thought, and all that kind of stuff. And so there should always be this general tension in a person's mind, whoever follows the Bible, of evaluating our intentions, you know. And that's why I think Christians, the real ones, and I'm not necessarily proclaiming to be one, but I would say, you know, that these thoughts are the things that true Christians need to have. Is like they would be very like they would be a very peculiar group, you know. And again, I'm not judging anybody's faith or weighing mine heavier or lighter than anybody else. I'm just saying, for a person to truly look at all the different laws and the requirements of being, you know, a follower of Jesus, and not realize that it's going to be extremely difficult to maintain those standards regularly, consistently, minute by minute. It's not possible, you know. And so this is one of the sort of paradoxical things about Christianity, is that it sets an incredibly high standard, but then it also follows up and says you have absolutely no chance of following it. And then so that by definition should imbue humility in anybody who follows this and teaches it. And so, you know, that's it's just a very difficult standard. And clearly these individuals in this time, you know, were caught in the trap of not understanding that even though they are attempting to follow the law and follow it closely, they're not doing it perfectly, and they never will. Okay, so reading on, verse 7. Ye hypocrites, well did Esaias prophesy of you, saying, these people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And so this is always something that we could be guilty of, you know, and in many ways we are guilty of for many you know, moments in our life. And so we have to be very, very careful to not speak extremely Christian, but not, you know, follow it up with actions, you know, and truly really allowing these truths, the many of them, to sink into our mind and to impact the way that we live. And he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth that defileth a man. So he's now answering their question, because they initially asked, for they wash not their hands when they eat bread. So I'm assuming that was not just a religious thing, but a practical thing to, like, you know, not eat anything, you know, with dirty hands. It's not good for you. And then so now he's kind of addressing their question, their inquiry, that it is not what, you know, what a person eat that defiles them with respect to God, but that cometh out of the mouth, this defiles a man. And so it's extremely poetic, you know. Like I think again we lose some of the poetry because we're reading it and not hearing it firsthand, but he uses a lot of, like, you know, parallelism and that kind of thing. And you know, he obviously is very sharp, you know. Like if you were to go up to somebody like, you know, Jesus in the flesh, you know, he's sharp, you know. So you have to, like, be precise, you know, when you interact with an entity like this. And you know, to me, again, this is the only reason why I feel that somebody would have the gall to ask a stupid question like this, is that they are the controlled opposition. You know, God has set up resistance to the truth, and for them to go and ask these, in my opinion, stupid questions. So going on to verse 12. Then came his disciples and said unto them, knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this, saying, but he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. So this, to me, is one of the main points I wanted to bring out as a form of encouragement. And, you know, I think Manny and I were interacting in a message thing recently. And, you know, every time I hear of people, like, sharing flat earth, or just sharing any truth, even if it's like our personal struggles or whatever the truth may be, even if it's not as big as flat earth, you know, and other people resist it, or in some cases, you know, ridicule it or throw it back in our face and insult us and all that. We have to be in some ways reaffirmed, you know, just knowing that this verse and many others reminds us that every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. So this is just the sad or hopeful reality for every plant that is actually from God. God has planted people that represent, you know, his left and right hand side. The thing that we have to be humble of is we don't know who those people are. Even if they look very much like the left hand side for their whole life, they could not be. And then if they look like the right hand side, they may not be. You know, this is what's, you know, you could say confusing, but this to me should give both sides, you know, really us a lot of humility to know that we don't know who's on the right hand side with 100% certainty. And so, you know, but God has planted certain people, his children, you on earth, but then he's also planted, resistance to the truth, and not all of them are evil in the sense that they're actively pushing falsehood, but they're just going along with the crowd. And so this and many other verses prophesy that there are many people that will take the chip, and that's just the reality of it. And these people here that Jesus is saying, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up, and will be destroyed, and will be, in essence, taken away from its life-giving source, from the earth. That they are disconnected from God. They are not connected to God. They are not, again, necessarily evil people. They could be neutral or evil, but they're just going to go along with whatever the government tells them, and everybody here, who's watching these interactions and stuff, there's a group of people that wouldn't necessarily question Jesus in this way, but they would go along with the crowd. They would be sitting on the side of the scribes and Pharisees, and playing along, with the resistance. And so all those people, and we pray that we're not one of them, are plants that the Heavenly Father has not planted, and so we have to do the works, that is reflective of a person that's on the right-hand side, being as charitable as we can, and all that kind of stuff. Even though the world that we live in right now is very much scarcity of resources, look out for yourself, all that kind of stuff. Like a personal thing in my life, and I'm not like saying that I'm like the most generous person out there. I've always tried throughout my life, wherever I could, to help people. I've obviously could do a lot more, but I find, like, especially in the last year or so, where I've kind of given up, as far as excessive planning about the future, mapping out, 5, 10 year, 15-year plan, all that stuff's completely out the window. I don't do that. And because, I don't think that, for me personally, there's more than 5 years left on my clock. It's very freeing, actually. It's kind of cool. I wish I could have kind of experimented more with this at a younger age and seen, how God and I could have interacted and just been more generous, and then give, more away financially and otherwise, and then just kind of wait and see, what God would do. It's kind of, to me, this is where having faith in God, it's scary because nothing can come, I could literally just drain my bank account today and just walk up to somebody and give them everything. And then, tomorrow I'll have nothing. God's not just going to shoot money from the sky into my pockets. But, over the course of a person's life, kind of leaning on God's promises and stuff, again, it's just, I didn't have the faith, to be totally honest, throughout my life. I think flat earth, again, has given, I would say, not just me, many of us, not just faith, but almost absolute assurance, that God exists. The only question now is which God, of which religion, if any. But, to me, obviously, that, the God of the Bible is speaking directly to these times in particular. Like I said, the development of the mark of the beast gives the God of the Bible the last sort of affirmation that it is the God that created us. And so, but I wish, in a way, I could have leaned on some of these things more, and then seen what kind of things would have happened. It obviously, again, is very, very scary because we're relying on an entity that many of us don't always know exists, and then we're then relying on him being faithful to what he said, hundreds of years ago. But okay, so just be aware of that. It's not our job to go and convert everybody and convince them that the earth is flat and all this. A lot of that stuff is for us. It's a gift, any truth that we house, whether we know it or not, at the end of the day, at the end of our life, was a gift, and so it's a gift for us, and I'm not saying just sit on it and don't share it, but it's not our responsibility to get somebody else to appreciate our gift. It's like I'm a golfer, so let's just say God gave me a brand new set of golf clubs, and I'm using the analogy of the golf clubs being the flat earth truth, let's just say, for example. I don't have to go and convert everybody to love golf as much as I do. That's, some people like this and many other verses say, they won't love golf. They're just not programmed to love it. They don't want to see your golf clubs, my golf clubs. They don't want to touch it. They want nothing to do with it, and so people, again, I'm not saying every single one is necessarily evil and will come after us and hurt us. Some will, which is why we have to be very, very careful in these days. But you know, they're not programmed to accept truth, you know, and in some cases, like these scribes and Pharisees, they're in fact programmed to actively resist truth and question the truth and ridicule it and poke at it. So reading on to 14. So I'm on Matthew chapter 15, verse 14. He's saying, let them alone, leave them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. And you know, that's just a reality of it. So, hey, Kazin, what's up, man? I'm in Houston, Texas. So they be blind leaders of the blind. And so Jesus is saying that what he's saying, these are very prophetic to this day. There's going to be blind people, fact. There's going to be people that follow the blind people, another fact. And there's going to be those people are all going to fall into a ditch. So in many ways, this is like true throughout human history, because there's been deceivers everywhere, but very, very relevant to the days that we live in now. We know that water doesn't bend. Like, you know, there was a time where honestly, in my mind, I had to like think about it. Water doesn't bend. Okay. So, you know, we could sit with a ball earther all day, you know, and like do as many experiments, flash lasers all over the place or whatever. Some of them, you know, and I hope they do come to our side, not just this truth, but other ones. But some of them have just been blinded, you know, and all we can do is share our opinion with a calm disposition as best as we can. And because anything else from that is evil, because it's going against the Bible, because the Bible's stating there are going to be blind people. So we're actually in some ways going antichrist when we push things too hard. Jesus never did that. Jesus literally could have walked around and sat down with everybody and, you know, just broke it down. You know, he's like, all right, let's go through this. You're here next year. This is going to happen to you. Then this is going to happen to you. And then this is going to happen to you. But, you know, if you accept me in your life, then this will, he could have did that to literally everybody, you know, and like been bang on with it. But he knew that certain people, and he obviously made everything. So like he has an understanding, but we have the vibe. We can get a vibe from people. Like if a person's resistant to talking about the evils of corporate America and just how everybody's a slave, they're probably not going to graduate to flat earth anytime soon. So there's like people that you can kind of, in my opinion, I can sense who are open to one day accepting that truth. And obviously God is doing all of this. I'm just saying that there's a general vibe that we can get from people who are open to hearing about the evils in the world, not just the evils of like hiding God and space and fakery and all this kind of stuff, which is obviously a major, major evil. But, you know, there's a lot of other evils in the world, and we can use those to get a sense of, you know, how open people are to truth. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. And Jesus said, are ye also yet without understanding? So this again is a difficult thing for most people to get, but it's a bit subtle just because we don't interact with Jesus in a physical sense. He's not the easiest person to deal with, you know, and like he couldn't be, you know, like all this pie in the sky kind of stuff that we've been taught that he is, which is to me one of the foundational elements of this new world order. One, we're all one, all that kind of stuff. We're not all one. You know, I'm not one with like pedophiles, even though I can be convicted of those sins spiritually. I'm not one with like pedophiles, bankers, swindlers, and all that. Again, I've done some of those things throughout my life, at least on a smaller level, but I'm not one with them. You know, I don't want to be one with those people. I don't want to be one with anybody who doesn't speak out against the mark of the beast development, even if it doesn't come out and is forced. I'm not one with those people. And so, you know, that's a very, very important point. That Jesus is a very difficult entity to interact with. And we have to be very, very clear, because ultimately, if we have faith that this is the God that created the whole world, we are going to reconnect with him. So the more we can learn about him now, that's common sense. And again, obviously test what I'm saying with your own spirit and your own understanding, but he's not the friendliest person. And we're going to see in this interaction coming up that's further reaffirmed. And I'm not trying to scare you and say, don't follow the Bible. I'm telling you that God has high standards, but he will pardon those who recognize that the standard's very high, want to reach it, and show mercy and compassion towards other people. That's the only way it works. There's no other way. Like, if you think the standard's high and you're reaching it and we're ragging on other people, God's going to find 1,000,001 ways throughout our life that we did not meet that standard, and he's going to embarrass us. That's just a fact. Like, and we don't want that. We don't want any part of God not liking us and actively against us, because it's not going to be pretty. Like, I remember over a year ago this time, I had a bulging disc in my neck, and it was like 2 months of just numb pain shooting down my arm. And I mean, that's not really like that bad compared to like a lot of the pain that I hear that people go through, and spinal issues and all that. Like, God can make things happen to us that we just don't want, and I would not wish that upon my enemy, and God does these things, like we just don't want any part of that with God. And thankfully the requirements to experience more of his mercy are not overwhelming. And Jesus says that his yoke is not overly burdensome in other places. But anyway, the main point, kind of dug into that, did a little sidetrack, but just, we're not one. Like, I don't think that doesn't make sense, and that whole mantra used to sort of kind of make sense. And we are all one in the sense that we are all created by God, but I'm not aligning myself with anybody, ultimately anybody who doesn't actively speak out against the mark of the beast development, and then ultimately anybody who takes it. I want to be as far away from that person as humanly possible. I don't want people like that to exist. And I hope that I don't take it either, So going on to 16. Yeah. And Jesus said, are ye also yet without understanding? So he's rough. He's abrasive. And these are people, this is Peter. Like, these are people very close to him. Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly, and is cast out into the draught? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornication, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defile not a man. So this is where, the law is just in place to, to keep order, and to really distinguish the Israelites from the rest of the world, which kind of have the law written in their hearts, but not mandated, and wouldn't follow it as closely as God would hope the Israelites would. But there's also like a spiritual, there's a more difficult law to maintain, and that is being consistent, and understanding that, that the law is very much like actions or avoiding certain things. But then there's a spiritual law that's even higher than that to maintain, and that's like our thought life, being consistent, examining ourselves, and all that kind of stuff. And so Jesus is challenging Peter, who's close to him, that he hasn't kind of pieced this together yet. And we have obviously the luxury of looking at this in hindsight, but he's calling him out for that, And Jesus, again, like I said, is not the type. He's not going to come and sit down and lay out your whole life for you and come up with like a Gantt chart. God is allowing us to figure certain things out on our own. And this is where I feel God is humble. He makes everything. All of this is his idea. The internet, YouTube, the earth, the people, everything, the sports that we play are all his ideas, but he gives his creation the ability to think that it's ours. Like when we do something great or we invent something, he makes it think that we did it, but it's ultimately his idea. And this to me is one of the many examples that show that God is humble. Okay, so then Jesus went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cries after us. So this girl is so desperate, she starts going after his disciples. And so you could sense the urgency and the fervor. And so to me, this also has analogies to, like, throughout our time, times in our lives where we pray to God and he doesn't quote unquote answer. We wonder, and then we start getting desperate, and begging or crying. And so this is happening in the physical here. And so the one good thing about this situation is, like, this woman was persistent, you got to give her that. And so in our situation now on earth, persistence and all this kind of stuff, purity, humility, and all these kind of things. And I've done a video on the minimum requirements to pray to God and expect anything, that you want. You can pray to him and then he can get irritated probably and give you something you don't want. But there are requirements, and humility is one of them, and should be obvious, but it's not. And so this woman is really practicing persistence that we could think of in our modern day, of just asking and then not just immediately expecting, the response right away, because she didn't get that. So again, to me, this is obviously, for me, very easy to know now that Jesus is doing this on purpose. He's just ignoring her, but he's testing, and he's seeing her perseverance and how badly she wants this healing. And so reading on, but then in 24, Jesus says, But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So here again, we're seeing, just like in the passage that I read last live stream with the centurion, Jesus is interacting with people who are Israelites and non-Israelites. And so here he is putting this woman who's a Canaanite woman and saying that she is not of the house of Israel. And so, other Hebrews and all that will twist these scriptures and say, oh no, she was an Israelite, but a foreigner, and I'll make up other abuses of the scripture. To me, that is only to serve their own false narrative, that God is only here for the quote unquote Israelites. And even if that were the case, we don't even know who they are individually. So that teaching is satanic. There's no other way to say it. But here we see that again, Jesus is saying, he's kind of upping kind of doubling the amount that he's ignoring her. He's like, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then comes she and worshipped him. So she also at the beginning addressed him as, O Lord, thou son of David. So you can sense that this woman has done her research. She knows about him. And then in 25, it goes on, then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to the dogs. So I don't think you will get this verse taught in mainstream churches really at all, for this reason. Jesus, who is taught as being a pie in the sky God, calling a woman who he's already ignored heavily, and basically said, ignores her, then says, I'm not here for you. Third, says, I'm not giving meat for my children's bread and casting it to you because you're a dog. And, what else do we have to say? This in and of itself proves that the rendition or the version of Jesus Christ that is being presented in a majority of the churches, especially here in America, is not Jesus. It's not Yahushua. It is a watered down, diluted, satanic rendition of the God of this Bible, who, like I said, is a tough individual spirit to deal with, but very merciful to the humble, as we see. And she said truth. So she affirms this. She takes this difficult pill to swallow, and she accepts what he's saying as true. And she said, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat off the crumbs which fall from their master's table. So to me, this is an incredibly humble statement. If somebody were to, like, if I were to go up to somebody like that, you know, and ask for something, imagine going up to somebody on the street and asking for directions and being like, I don't give directions to dogs. You'd be like, okay, you know, like that would lead to an altercation for a lot of people. And one would not think they would get that kind of a response from God. And then asking for a favor on behalf of somebody else, one would not expect this type of a response. But again, Jesus is doing this. He's placing stumbling blocks in front of people to see if they will step over those to get to him. He's not just walking around high-fiving everybody, co-signing everything that people do, cheerleading everything. He's absolutely a very difficult individual to approach because he's perfect. You know, he is a very important, you know, spirit, the highest spirit on the right-hand side. And, you know, he cannot be approached lightly. And I'm speaking to myself here, probably the most, but this is not a God that we, and I'm, again, very much speaking to myself. We don't want to like test this God, you know, and we need to ask God for mercy for ourselves and for others, because we don't want an entity like this coming after us. You know, we have enough problems on earth. We don't want God coming after us. And so, but here's the reward, you know, for that Jesus gives. Then in 28, then Jesus answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Yeah, so that's amazing. And so here we go. Like we've gone from ignoring this this woman. Hey, Mies Kang, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? So he went from ignoring her, saying that what he has is not for her because she's not part of the house of Israel, and then calling her a dog, but then says, great is thy faith. And so, you know, this is an incredible interaction, very, very similar to the centurion, where, you know, we have an individual who is out, quote unquote, outside the fold, you know, getting praised by God. And I can only imagine what this woman felt relief from her own burden, you know, of housing, you know, dealing with somebody else's sickness. In this case, my daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. So in my opinion, very spiritual person, just to be able to say something like that. She knew what was going on. And then the joy of that healing, and then having to believe that it happened, because she obviously didn't have contact. They didn't have cell phones. They weren't texting, yeah, I'm healed, mom, or anything like that. She had to believe that that actually happened. And in my opinion, it would have only happened if she believed it. And once she believed it, you know, the healing takes place. So she feels relief. And then she also gets a compliment from the most important person in human history to walk the earth. That's an incredible thing, you know. And so that's you know, that's something that, you know, we really can't wrap our mind around, because, you know, we're not living in this age, or at least we don't remember if we were, what that would feel like, you know, to get vindicated, to get a compliment, even if it's a very mild one, even just to like have God look in our direction, would be an incredible thing. And so, you know, this woman persevered, and you know, it's a great story, but very much gives us, you know, a lot of insight into, you know, Jesus, and we call him Yahushua. And so God will set up stumbling blocks. And so there are a lot of stumbling blocks right now. Hey, Rapid X, what's up, man? So I'll kind of end with that, and you know, I'll just talk a little bit about, you know, end times and flat Earth, and then if anybody has, you know, thoughts or questions or whatever, just, you know, let me know. But so yeah, there's a lot of stumbling blocks to worshiping God and acknowledging truth. First one that us flat earthers have overcome is by, you know, God's grace. It's a gift that we've all been indoctrinated. You know, we've been lied to our whole life, and that's a major hurdle to climb over, because, you know, we have to acknowledge that we've been duped. you know, and it's like, that's not easy for many people to do. I'll be honest, I was kind of upset for a while at everybody. I was like messaging my couple of my high school teachers and all that, you know, and I'm like, you know, like, what are they going to do? You know, and one of them actually responded and didn't agree that the earth was flat, but he basically was saying, you know, a lot of the stuff that, you know, we've been taught, you know, looks like it's being questioned. And so at least he responded. But, you know, like I was kind of upset, you know, that I was duped. And so it's a difficult thing for people to acknowledge that, first off, that they've been duped their whole life with almost everything. And then secondly, which probably for me was the harder pill to swallow, was that God did it to me, you know, and it's not like a physical thing, like he didn't beat me over the head and all that. And a lot of people do go through physical pain in their life. And I have a feeling if I went through that, I would be incredibly upset knowing what I know now, because I know that God did it. And so we also, again, you know, in the Bible, we have an example of an entity, Jesus Christ, who is perfect, who died an absolutely horrendously grisly death for doing nothing wrong. And so, but he handled it in a way that nobody else could, you know, and that's why he is exalted at the right hand of the Heavenly Father. And so, you know, that's a stumbling block. And so we have to be aware of that and be thankful that, you know, God has removed that and brought us a little bit closer to allow us to worship him. And, you know, that one other one that's difficult for a lot of people is that Jesus is black, you know, and I think that this was a difficult, not as difficult for me, but you know, it took like a few days or whatever. Like I understood, you know, it was like in my mind, again, I've been so programmed and conditioned to see, you know, Jesus with like the long blonde hair and watching the Passion of the Christ and all that. So Jesus Christ, the individual who this whole book is written for, he's a dark-skinned individual. So you can debate his descendants or the people in his tribes where they are, and they're scattered. They're all over the place in the world, and they don't look like any one type of person. But the visual in our head is that this person, this entity that's speaking, and the people around him, they're all quote unquote black people. You know, they're dark-skinned people. And so to me, that automatically eliminates the Jews in Israel, many of them, from being the biblical Jews. They're even if they were dark-skinned, they're not acting like the Jews. They're not prophesying about anything. All they're doing is they're enslaving everybody with financial trickery. And so that's another stumbling block. So if people, and I'm not saying this is easy to digest, and God has to be there to help us. It may happen quicker for some people. Some people already know, you know, just by common sense. They don't need to be taught this, but the Bible does tell us in many, many, many places that that God is black, and all the prophets were black. And so that's another stumbling block, you know. And it's like in this situation, you know, this woman had a stumbling block of being ignored, told that he wasn't going to help her, and then ridiculed. He kind of like puts it all on the table and calls her a dog. And, you know, she perseveres and gets a healing and then gets complimented. But even more now, she knows that this is God. You know, probably the crown jewel of that whole interaction was that she has now knows with 100% certainty in her physical body that she has just interacted with God, you know, because no other person can do that. You know, like I'm assuming the disciples, when they were given healing power, and I'm just saying this off the top of my head, it may not be true, but my understanding is that they would probably have to go and touch the person and be there physically, and to heal, because they were given, you know, certain powers. But Jesus didn't have to do that. He could say, like, now your daughter's healed, or the centurion, your servant is healed, and they'll be healed. Like his word, everything that he says in the universe obeys. God has given him the ability and dominion that whatever he says, everything that is out there reacts to what he says. If he tells a spirit to go into pigs, they go into the pigs. They go into the exact pigs that he wants. And if he wants a devil released from this woman's daughter who was showing great faith, that devil will go away. And so that's an amazing thing. And so this woman has just now, come into the presence of God and reaffirmed by her statement where she called him Lord. And it's for sure. I would say the equivalent to modern day would literally be us, like, going up in sky and seeing like the dome and the flat thing. We'd be like, all right, God exists now. That's 100% true. And all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I think for us, we have to wait for evil to come, or at least me, I'm waiting for this evil microchip thing to fully manifest. And then we know not just that God exists, but the God of the Bible exists. But again, we feel all these things that people go through, trials, tribulations, and all that deception. God will ultimately redeem those children, those, that the Heavenly Father, as he says earlier, has planted. And so if you go back to verse 13, so Matthew 15:13, but he answered and said, every plant which my Heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. That's not a maybe, an if, or possibly. Every plant. And so, it's not our job to do that. God has made us and made those on the left and right hand side. We just have to pray that we are on his right hand side, that we do the works of those on the right hand side. He preserves us after we leave our physical body, and we can continue to experience him, and enjoy him, and ultimately, like this woman here, worship him. Okay, so Zen X what's up, man? Welcome, dude. So I haven't seen your name before, but my channel is mostly like end times type stuff. But I'm open to talking about the goings on of the world and all that. So how do you feel about homosexuality? So I posted a video about the biblical response to homosexuality. And, if you check that out, you'll get that perspective of a person who wants to follow the Bible sincerely and wants to have a biblically rooted view on homosexuality. I would say the thing that, and this verse brings out at the beginning, if you were here, I was reading Matthew chapter 15, and the scribes and Pharisees were challenging Jesus and his disciples, like, why don't they wash their hands before they eat? And then Jesus didn't address it right away. And he went into like, how come you guys don't, honor your father and mother? And he goes into other things that they don't follow. And so God will do this. And we don't want God to do this when it's too late, when we die. We want to understand these things now. And I'm speaking to myself. And so the thing about homosexuality, it's just one of the more sort of obvious and politicized things that the Bible is against. But the thing that God will take it to this level, at least, or he's revealed it to me, is that, and this to me is possibly only for a certain group of people, and I'm not saying I'm super special, but not everybody will understand this. But when we work for corporate America, fundamentally to me, that's a homosexual act, because it's not like anal penetration, but it is like mental, in my opinion, it's mental sodomy. It is someone who is taking my quote unquote innocence, or in this case, creativity, away from me, and again, I'm not, this is not for everybody to understand, but just if you can get this or think about this, this is the perspective that the God's children, I feel, not just which I feel that, I am, and I'm asking, God to give me the works and all that, to reflect, somebody that is his child. But this is the way that we're thinking, and this is the way that we're crying out to God, saying that, God, we cannot obey the commandments even if we wanted to, because the very nature of the work that's happening here on earth is a form of sodomy. And there's many places where God speaks of that in the physical as being evil, and spiritually he calls America, or what I feel is America, whatever mystery Babylon ends up being. And I have other videos that make a strong case for that being modern day America, as spiritually Sodom. And so, you know, it's all those spirits that if you're able to accept reincarnation, even if you're not, those spirits that existed in that time in Sodom have been reinfused into bodies here on earth. And then they are the people that are practicing that. And, you know, it's like law. It's like, it's in the day-to-day, it's in the very fabric of our culture. And so God did not infuse homosexuality on the earth so me and others can sit on our high horse and say, wow, look at all these homosexuals, like I'm obviously a lot better than them, you know, and all that kind of stuff. God can first of all point to my heterosexual sins, and see that they're exactly the same thing, and he will, either way, and I hope that he does it in a graceful way. That's all we can hope for. But he can also say that, you know, and in my opinion, he wants us to cry out and say, God, we understand that you're against, you know, that. I feel I'm experiencing it right now intellectually, working in this beast system. And so either I go on my own, or you come and, you know, fix this, you know. And so to me, this is the prayer of, you know, God's children. And, you know, to me, this, again, may not be understood by everybody, but this is the spirit that's interacting with me. And this is the manner in which I feel God puts all of us in situations, uncomfortable situations here on earth, simply because he wants us to cry out to him, for us to be rescued. Yeah, the Miskang, spiritual sodomy. Yeah, in spiritual, so sodomy can exist in the physical, it can exist spiritually, and it can exist intellectually, in the very least. And so this is why I get on some people's case in some live streams, who talk about, oh, like there's no tough guys anymore. Like I was getting on Vegan Warrior's case in one of his live streams. He's like, and GMS and all these Hebrews, they're like, oh, you know, like I'm a tough guy. You know, they sit on the street corners, call everybody a slut and a whore, and everybody's soft nowadays. Everybody's being sodomized. Like, if you don't like that, you're definitely not going to like the material in my channel. Everybody is, you know, like, just, I'm not saying it's right, but we are being taken advantage of at different levels, and in some way, even if you're the quote unquote CEOs and the rich, they are being forced to lie to keep their money and pretend like everything's okay when it's not. So they're being sodomized in different ways. And so that's my stance on homosexuality. I don't think the Bible is true. This is XFenZenX. I don't think the Bible is true. I believe God is just a force of healing and pulling the world together. It wasn't a person. Those stories aren't true. Together. It wasn't a person. Those stories aren't true. Our God is in us. The stories don't make sense. I guess the one thing that to think about, you know, and again, I'm not here to like, you know, amass a huge following, because again, I know that the things that I share are not common, and it's just I've realized this is not for everybody, and it's not even for very many people in the truth community. And so, you know, I just, if you have an ear to hear this, I guess, just think about those stories. And I get that. Like, I watch Non Sequitur, and some of those people that come on, like Aaron Ra and all that, and Godless Engineer, and they're like, all these stories, they sound like Jack and the Beanstalk. I remember Bill Maher, the comedian, would always say, like, he could interchange Jack and the Beanstalk with like Bible stories, and no one would really know which one's which. And it's fair, you know, it's fine, you know, to make those statements. But then now the responsibility is on you, if this is something that you're interested in, understanding human history and knowing what it was, because we clearly don't have the best historical records. But you have to then say, if you disagree with the Bible and say that it's a bunch of stories and fairy tales, what would human history look like for you then? Like, what brought us here? Was it all roses and daffodils and you know, cupids shooting hearts everywhere. No, there's a grisly amount of death that has occurred in human history, whether you acknowledge the Bible being historically accurate or not. The Bible makes an even more grandiose claim that not only was there a tremendous amount of death and suffering, but the only pure entity that has ever walked this earth, he died a grisly death, which is the most evil that can ever be expressed ever, because you're killing the only thing that is pure. So anybody who, and this is not easy for anybody, and this is very easy for me to say because I haven't had any major sort of physical ailments yet, knock on wood. But anybody who claims that they've gone through anything anywhere near as bad as that is speaking against God, is speaking anti-Christ, because the only major atrocity in human history that has ever happened that's of any significance is mankind, perverted people, killing the only thing that is righteous on earth, and that is Jesus Christ, if you have faith to believe that that occurred. And so that's the grisly history that the Bible speaks of. And so, you know, that's something you have to think of, you know, and again, don't take my word for it, and don't even necessarily just read the Bible and accept that it's true, because in many ways I did that for many years, and you know, I could have learned a lot more from it had I been even more intense about scrutinizing it. And it's open to it. You know, the God of the Bible is very, very open to scrutiny. And in fact, if you don't scrutinize it, like in this interaction that I just read, where Jesus said in verse 16, and Jesus said, "Are ye also yet without understanding?" This is his like right-hand man, so to speak, Peter. He's calling him out, saying, "Dude, like, you've been around me for like months and years. Like, haven't you thought about this kind of stuff?" You know, this is who we're dealing with. And you know, the Bible is very open to be scrutinized. There's things in there that are hard to believe on purpose. Like I said, there are stumbling blocks in this book. There are things that God did that he knows that people in this generation will have difficulty understanding or accept, and they'll reject it. And he doesn't want those people to worship him. It even says, like I said, "But he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up." So if you don't like the Bible, and I'm not saying this to be rude, because I don't know who you are, but take this with the firmness that comes with the days that we're living in right now. If you don't like the rendition of human history, if you don't like those stories and you've wrestled with them and you just don't think that they're true or whatever, then this book is not for you. You know, it's just not, you know. And I think that this book is definitely not for anybody who takes a chip in their hand or in their head like that. It's for you in the sense that you will be destroyed, or I will be destroyed if I do that. So, you know, this is not to sort of hand wave or massage your question, which is a valid one that a lot of people have, and I myself have. You know, a lot of these things, especially in the Old Testament, there's things in the New Testament that are extremely difficult to understand. If you read the book of Revelation and you have even like a hint of understanding, you'll see that God is on an absolute warpath. And there's places in the New Testament in red letters where Jesus talks about killing those people who will not worship him. And so the Old Testament is filled with many, many, many more stories of that. And so we just ask God to give us a clear mind now and help us understand that, first of all, that he exists. He's the author of good and evil. He can somehow create us, but we don't know that he exists. So we can exist independently of him. That's the trillion, bazillion dollar question that no one knows. But we are a part of him, and he's able to make us experience things that are either that can range from incredibly pleasurable to incredibly painful. And we just ask that God not give us the pain. You know, like we understand now, you know, like we don't want to walk around in darkness anymore and just, you know, deal with judgment and all that. You know, we want the God of this Bible, who died a vicious death on the cross, to live here on earth with us and dwell with us. And, you know, we want to learn more about him, and ultimately whatever he will share with us about the Heavenly Father, who is this, as you said, a force of healing, which is very true. You know, he absolutely is. All this pain, and stuff that people have gone through, and again, I haven't gotten the brunt of it like a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of people who need a lot of healing, and we ask for that day to come soon. We are the evil that destroys the common sense and love. Okay, so microeconomics, like at the micro level, that's true. But the macro level, and I can do a lesson on that one time. At the macro level, God is the author of evil and deception. No individual, no Rothschild, Vanderbilt, DuPont, Rothstein, Silverstein, none of those people, the Pope, came up with the idea of central banking, slavery, of crucifying Jesus Christ, beheading John the Baptist, of you know, putting the disciples upside down on a cross. This is not a human's idea to come up with this. To come up with a body that can experience decay. All these things are God's inventions, and he wants us to give him credit for what he did, you know. And then the amazing thing, in my opinion, about the God of this Bible is that he gives us credit for things that we do, even though it was his idea. So it's like, it's literally like your boss just coming and like giving you the answers and the report, and you just go and kind of walk over and deliver it or hand it in. It's kind of like that. And so, you know, we get to experience things with God's direction, but ultimately what I think, you know, we all want as God's children is to like just be closer to him, you know, and get to know him more. And somehow he's able to create us outside of himself, this infinite entity. He's able to create things outside of himself that can exist outside of himself, that don't feel like they're fully, you know, just have to do what he says. He can make people independent. And in my opinion, this is, again, not for everybody to get, but if God is going to create something, he can only create things that are like him. He can only create other gods, not at his highest God level, but he can only create other entities that exhibit characteristics like him. And he is capable of good and evil. He is the author of good and evil, but to me, the evil is just for conditioning. But he's only able to create other things that are independent, sovereign, creative, life-giving, healing, all those things, you know. And so to me, this time here on earth is a form of conditioning. But ultimately, if there is a spirit that's inside of us and it's released, that thing would exhibit characteristics of the highest power. And we will always be in subjection to him. We can only see what he shows us. But being in his presence, I suspect, like you're getting at, being a force of healing and pulling the world together, as you said, that there is no better place to be. You know, it's like, think of the most powerful, coolest person on earth right now who you'd be in awe of to meet, and think of the entity that made that thing and everything else. That's who we're dealing with. You know, we want to approach him, but he can only be approached in a certain way. And this verse, this chapter, Matthew 15, says that, you know, here in an earthly sense, this woman could only approach God, Jesus Christ, if she was able to swallow the fact that he called her a dog. And so, you know, God tests us in different ways. It's not just him making fun of us or, you know, making a statement like that to test us, but he's doing that with our life. But, you know, we're all, not just me, it looks like a lot of people are collectively crying out to God. And, you know, we are asking him to dwell with us, whether it's him coming to us or we would like to go to him. The Mies Kang is actually asking, do you ever feel unworthy? You know what, man? I think, like, in many ways, like, my experience might be a lot different than people. I think I approach God a lot more buddy than I should, to be totally honest. Like, so I think that's why me putting myself in the shoes of this woman, I would probably be offended, you know, to be honest. And I don't know, like, obviously she had the urgency to, like, persevere because her daughter was sick. So that helped. So this is where God can use even incredible amounts of pain and demonic possession, you know, possessions in this case, to bring about faith and healing and all that. But, you know, let's just say, you know, remove all that, just approaching God, asking for a favor, you know, and he calls me a dog, you know, I'd be a little bit offended, you know, and I think that's where I've had to like take a step back, even with all this ball earth, flat earth stuff. And, you know, just the only person we should get angry at that deceived us is God. Fact. Whether you like that or not, that's a fact. And then, but the response to that is not, to me, it's okay for a little while to be upset that we've been tricked, especially if you've been tricked for many, many years. But ultimately, we have to do in many ways, and I have to do what this woman did, ultimately worship God. Even if, like, in this case, she got called a dog, but she got healing. We got duped, and then maybe other worse things have happened to us. But, you know, we have to, like, I have to figure out a way to still, you know, worship God, you know, and not get angry and bitter and feel like I lost, because I'm kind of a competitive person and all that. But so I think that feeling of unworthiness will obviously come if any of us are in the presence of God in the spirit world. That is automatic. I'm sure you've had, you know, spiritual encounters in your life from what I've interacted with you before. People who have had near-death experiences and stuff like that, you know, they're just they can't describe it. You know, it's like it's unworthiness, you know, raised to the power of unworthiness kind of thing. And so, you know, I think I'm getting there. I think I have to be better about that. And I think the more that I do that, feel that sort of disparity in righteousness, in creativity and power, the better better off I will be, and the more spiritual, and I'll be on better terms with God if I can get to that point. I think that's where, like, we have examples like John the Baptist, who who I feel is Elijah, and it's even Elijah's reference here. You know, Jesus quotes him as well. So I was reading Matthew chapter 15, and he quotes Isaiah in verse 7, and so, or Elijah, sorry, in verse 7. And so, you know, these entities, like, they would say, you know, I'm unworthy to, like, untie the, you know, the sandals and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, that level of unworthiness, of very deep sort of understanding of the separation that exists between, you know, God and us. It's not for everybody, and we all experience it, I think, in different ways to different degrees. But clearly, the people that are close to God appreciate that the most. And so I'm getting there. But I think, you know, flat earth, to me, it was a major awakening that God exists. God of the Bible highly likely is the creator, and to me gives even more support to the fact that we're in the end times. I just want to confirm that this person that I just read is actually Elijah. Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, it's actually yeah, sorry. He didn't quote Elijah. He quoted Isaiah. But it's written Esaias. But either way, Jesus does declare John the Baptist to be the greatest amongst men. He's exalted, in my opinion, for one, probably of other reasons, but he was the one that felt the most unworthiness when he was around God. And that's not a natural thing. To me, that's something that has to be given. It's one of the many characteristics I think that would prove that you know, that you're on God's right hand side. So it's a very important, in my opinion, feeling or awareness to have mentally. So It's another incredible thing to think that, you know, Jesus is here quoting the Bible. You know, this I'm sure has been taught, but he's like he's quoting Isaiah, and, you know, just reciting it. And they obviously didn't have, you know, apps and, you know, the Bible app and all that, you know, Old Testament app back then. So he has the entire Bible, you know, at his like mental, you know, just on the tip of his tongue, basically, which is incredible. And so, again, we're dealing with an extremely unique entity here, who not only can remember these things, but is the very person that's authoring all these different prophecies. So if anybody else has any questions, I was going to kind of wrap up a little and talk about flat Earth. Just put a couple thoughts out there, just what I see going on in the debate and all that, and you know, just offer up a couple suggestions and stuff for people who want to stay involved and, you know, mentally active kind of in what's going on. But so Zoom Truth, I noticed on his channel, he's posting an experiment or a test and challenging this ball Earth assumption. And to me, it's great. You know, I think that's the cool thing about this debate, is that everybody has their own unique perspective. And like it's like a diversity of ideas. Like everybody's kind of hitting it from different angles. And you know, the shape is not changing. So we're lucky in the sense that there could be a flood of, you know, linear, repeatable, observable proofs. And so mine mentally, like with my level experiment, you know, creating a flat surface and then having a level traverse it. And then if it stays level the whole time, then the Earth is flat. You know, then gravity doesn't exist because it's not doing what it's told us that it should. Like, that's enough for me, because like mentally I know for a fact that if you, like, just in my mind, like rubbing a level across a flat surface for miles and miles and miles and miles versus rubbing it across like an arc. Like, let's say you had a Earth curve, and then right above it you had a flat surface. If you rub a level over the flat surface, it's going to stay level. And if you rub it over Earth curve, even if it's a really long, like or gentle curve, a level would react. Level exists to react to the fact that Earth is level. Like, that's why a level can exist. It's like a law. It's like a natural law, you know. And so yeah, and the Mies Kang's talking about constellations never changing. Yeah, like everybody has their thing, you know, and I think it's kind of cool that, you know, God will use different things. So no, a level doesn't react to the force applied to it. A level reacts to what it's sitting on. That's all it can do. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have an intelligence. It doesn't have a CPU. It doesn't have a spiritual connection to the center of the Earth. It doesn't pray to the core of the Earth and asks for direction. It doesn't have a GPS system telling it where to go and how to, you know, move the liquid around. It reacts to what it's sitting on. That's a fact. If I put a level on this table, and this table is flat, and I extended this table out for miles and miles and miles, the level's not going to know that it's on this part of the table or it's like 30 miles down on the table. All it's going to know is that it's on a flat surface. That's all it's going to know. And that's the whole point. Like, you can have any flat surface anywhere in space that is however long, and all a level is going to know is that when you take it and move it and put it on a flat surface, put it on it here, 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 it's not going to know that you're in a different place. It's just going to know that it's sitting on a flat surface. And so that fundamentally, mentally, I mean, we could do the experiment if it's not windy and we had a few drones and stuff, but a level just knows what it's sitting on, and it only acknowledges flat. How long do you think the plank should be? I mean, this is why it's like difficult sometimes to interact with people, because we know, many of us know now that the earth is flat. Like it will not, you can go for as long as you want, you know, and it's still going to keep reading level. And so as long as like you do it for enough miles that a baller, I guess, would be happy, like that it's just keep reading flat, which we know by common sense that it would, then whatever, you can go forever, like just until you hit something, like, or the drones run out of battery power or whatever. I don't know, like just miles and miles and miles and miles. Like you're asking me when and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but if you're asking me when the level would start wobbling or like shaking, the answer is never. Like, you know, like, again, I would bet my entire life savings on this. You know, I'm not saying I'm rich, but if we could literally do this and like someone really thinks that a level would start jittering on a flat surface after, I don't know, 50 miles or 100 miles. I mean, I'm not a betting person in these last days. You know, I've never been a person who gambles in my life, but for very much money, like $1 or $2 here and there. But that's ridiculous. You know, I would take that to the bank. That's literally like, I don't know, that's as certain as like anything in my life, like in physical reality, that I know that mentally that a level will not spontaneously start moving. As long as it's, again, over a flat surface. Like, again, think of this table. Think of the table that's in front of you. If you could push a button and like have the table, like let's say this is the table that's in front of you. Imagine you can have a button that just like pushes it, that just extends the table out that way, like hundreds of miles on both sides. You're telling me that if you put a level here, and then if you put the level on this part of the table, and then you kept doing that, like all of a sudden the level is going to know like 50 miles down there that, oh shoot, I'm on a different part of ball earth. I better start shaking violently. Like, are you kidding me? Like that's preposterous. You know, like this is, unfortunately we have to entertain these ideas because, again, God did this. Only God can orchestrate this kind of a deception. But so we have to, again, he's setting up stumbling blocks. Like I read in this chapter. So all credit goes to him. And a lot of these ballers, if they end up taking if the Bible is true and the chip comes out and these ballers are atheist ballers and they take this chip, they're going to find out this verse, what happens in real life. Matthew 15:13, but he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. And that's Jesus speaking. So you can take that to the bank if this Bible is true. So Stephen Steen is like shaking. Here's the theory, and you can't argue with this unless you're absolutely out of your mind. A level cannot maintain level on two surfaces. It cannot. So if you have earth curve, and then you have a flat surface like an inch above it, however, like let's say we were over water and we could put like a flat surface, like I said, my flat plank all the way flat for 50 miles, 100 miles. So now we have two surfaces and they're like very close to one another, microscopically different. They're experiencing the same quote unquote gravitational field. If you rub a level across the curve, ball earth theory states that the level will stay level. The only reason we don't see that now on this table, or the only reason that this level stays level on this table is because this table doesn't have enough earth curve. You know, it's just that it's locally flat. That's the theory. But the only, like if you were to take a level and rub it across like a perfectly calm body of water that it allegedly is curving, then that is the only surface that the level will stay level over in the ball earth theory / religion. And so now if I create a different surface, which I believe is the surface or the shape of the earth, flat surface. Again, use a table. If you have a table right in front of you, literally imagine if this is the table that's in front of you and you could push a button and just have the table, you know, for me right now, it would like, the table would break my window, but, and you know, over there is my bed. So like, but let's say you could like push a button and have your table just magically extend all the way out, you know, same height, you know, like the same height off the ground, same legs and all that, but just perfectly out. There's no worry. You don't have to worry about the droopiness of the wood, or like, this is a theoretical thought experiment. You're telling me that if I had a carpenter's level, let me pretend like this is the carpenter's level, and this is the table. It's reading level. And then over here, it's going to read level. And then if I move this thing 50 miles down there, how is this level going to know that, oh, Chirag just moved the level 50 miles down there? The only way it would know is if gravity exists. And if you want to believe that if I took this level here, moved it here, moved it here, moved it here, and just for some reason 50 miles down the road, the thing starts like violently shaking. If you want to believe that, I mean, go for it. That's up to you. That is, to me, intellectually absurd, you know. And so a lot of us, we know that the earth is flat now, man. Like, we're not even necessarily trying to give you a hard time and trying to be rude, but it does get frustrating. And that's why, like, the Nathan Oakleys of the world, they get a lot of, you know, flack, but that's a person, you know, who's taken the courage to kind of dedicate his, and the risk to dedicate, you know, his day-to-day life, his, you know, living, defending, you know, the flat earth. And it gets frustrating because we know that that's not true. That is ridiculous to believe that. I don't care if they did it, whatever. Just do you really believe that? Do you really think that this level, sitting on a table, and I extend this table out in both sides, do you think that this level has like a brain and will know that, oh, Chirag has taken this level and moved me 50 miles down? How does this level know that? It's interacting with a gravity vector here to keep it level on this thing. You're telling me it's going to know that 50 miles down that this thing is going to like somehow understand that, oh, I'm in a different position on Earth now. That's ridiculous. Yeah, this is what we're saying, you know, and like the Mies Kang is talking about what brought him to flat Earth. What would be needed would be the opposite, essentially, of what he saw. And I would need to see what I'm proposing. I would need to see it. And I did not put expensive equipment. I didn't put anything ridiculous. It could happen very easily in our lifetime. But there's no reason to do it because it's like obvious, you know. And I'm not going to go and take the word of a chat troll. And I can't remember what you and I interacted with on the past, but that also was ridiculous. I can't remember if you're a Christian baller, but we're exposing you guys. It's very easy now because if you are a person who's interested in the Bible, there are like a handful of things now that we know are true. We know it just by common sense and cannot be refuted. There's evil in the world through central banking. That's common knowledge. So ballers who don't admit that, and many of them don't, I haven't heard one, seriously, you're just hurting your own cause. You guys should just like pretend to care about central banking. You know, like just, even, I know it pains you and you're not allowed to, but like, why not just pretend? Because that's in the mainstream now. The evil that's going on in stock markets, the financial manipulation, the central banks are controlling all the stock market valuations. Stock buybacks, corporate CEO getting paid through stocks, which is why you have to have stock buybacks to keep the stocks propped up. All these things are like out there. Like, it's like, these are channels, like people who have like 500,000 subs, 100,000 subs who are talking about financial manipulation. So this is not like some, you know, in the closet, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. So you guys are, that's a major ding against you guys. And I was on the chat with Conspiracy Cats today, and he's still playing dumb. You know, this is a guy who claims to understand one of the most difficult, if it were to exist, forces in all of human history because of its incredible nonlinearity. In my opinion, it would be spiritual if it exists, because it would have to have intelligence. But it's an incredibly difficult vector field. and all that kind of stuff. It's like, how can you understand something that, and you want me to take your word for it on that, but you're staying silent on something that is ridiculously obvious, you know? And like, and I'll call out some of the flat earthers on this too. And again, this will put me in my own little corner, and I've come to understand this is the way it is, you know, and the truth is the truth. But there are even flat earthers who won't talk about the financial deception. And so that to me is like even more affirmation that there's a deception going on and that we're in the end times, because even a lot of the truth, the quote unquote truthers, are corrupted. So you, like the Steven Steens, and I'm not calling you out in any personal way, but you guys have no chance with us, especially people who follow my channel. You have no chance because you're not even stepping over the hoops of obvious things, you know, that are, again, like non-religious people are complaining about the injustices in central banking. So, you know, like this is not a conspiracy theory anymore. I'm sorry to tell you that the education system, even if you don't agree with us that they're lying about a lot of things, it's a financial scam. You know, the amount of debt that people are loaded with, they're being charged money to be taught things like ideas. Like this system has monetized knowledge that is from God. They monetize water, so we have to pay for water, which comes from like the heavens and is like God's. They monetize knowledge, and not just monetize it. I understand paying a small amount, you know, for the building, the lights, you know, and paying the teachers and trying to attract the best teachers. I get that, but dropping $250,000 on an education, which is one evil, and then not being able to provide them jobs to pay that back ever, much less in one lifetime. You're already like, we don't even like, you don't even exist in my opinion, not to be rude. Like I'll engage in your questions here for the sake of this chat, but I don't trust you technically, obviously. And again, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm assuming I've been in school a lot longer than you. I've been indoctrinated a lot longer, so I wouldn't trust you anyway. But I'm not going to trust you anyway because you're not even acknowledging evils that are blatantly obvious. If you come to my channel and even things about Jesus' skin color, if you're a person who's like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter, you know, I don't care if you're the most devout Christian in your life. I don't want to hear from you, to be totally honest, either, because it does matter what Jesus looked like, because it's in the Bible. If someone hangs a picture of you on the wall and paints your skin color green, your grandkids, and then your grandkids, you look at your picture and you're like, hey, grandkids, like, why'd you guys paint my face green? You know, it's like, I'm not a green person. They're like, it doesn't matter. Whatever. You know, no, that's Satan. You know, this is the God of the universe that we're dealing with. If you're a person who believes in the Bible, if you come on my channel and I tell you that in many, many places it shows that the God of the Bible is dark skin, and you're clinging to blonde hair, blue eye, pale skin Jesus just because it feels good for you, you don't have any credibility, even if what you're saying is technically useful for me. I don't. Why would I listen to you? I'll go to somebody else who is as smart as you, but will acknowledge things that are obvious. So I'll find a Steven Steen out there who has, like you said, I have 2 engineering degrees, great, and a master's. So I have an engineering degree and 2 masters, and I'm a CPA. So I don't need you for anything intellectually. But let's say I did, I would find someone like you who would acknowledge the evils of central banking and other things that are blatantly obvious in the world. That would literally, like, for you to not want to talk about that or acknowledge that means there's something else going on. And that something else, if you continue in this, is what's written here. But he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. So again, I don't wish that upon you, but you know, if the shoe fits, it fits. And we don't want that to fit us. And I don't want that shoe to be on anybody's feet anywhere near me in the age that we live in right now, because there's a tremendous amount of evil. It's not a straw man, man. I told you what I am thinking mentally. If you believe something differently, or I already know this is the baller stance. This is the theory. You can't argue with this. No, I didn't say that. You said that, but if I can't remember our interaction, what we talked about, but lots of people, enough people have said that, or have said, you know, whatever, he's like olive skinned or whatever. No, like the prophets and Jesus are dark skinned. They're black men. You know, get over it. And if you don't want to get over it, take your ideas to a different place on YouTube, because you're not going to like the things that I talk about here, because a great deal of the rescue of salvation is going to come here in America, and a lot of them are going to be so-called Negroes. No, I don't know if it was you, but I don't even know if you're a Christian baller, if you come from that stance or that position, but I'm just giving you things that are filters that I'm very thankful for, that I have these nuggets of truth, because then I know who to not take seriously. If you're a person who is Christian but says it doesn't matter what Jesus' skin color is, it just matters that you have a personal relationship with him or whatever, you're dismissed. You, like, in my mind, you don't exist, because that is a stupid thing to say. Even if he is quote unquote white, it matters for us to know that, because the descendants of those people would kind of look like him. And so one of the major clues for us to know that the Jews in Israel are indeed the synagogue of Satan, many of them, not all of them, some of them are God's children, but we know that because Jesus is black. And so we know that they are not the real Jews. They are converts, I believe, from the Khazarian Empire. They are they are converts to the practice of Judaism, to the religion, the true heritage of the Israelites. So there's a lot of things, you know, that you're not anywhere near going to step over and talk about. And, you know, that's a problem. So if you ever did want to get into mine, and the few people that, you know, follow my channel are good graces and have a voice here, you're going to have to talk about central banking. You're going to have to talk about, you don't have to agree that the mark of the beast is coming out, because we don't know, but you're going to have to talk about the development of it, this whole transhuman, transgender, everything, trans everything. No, I'm saying, when have you or I just, no, I'm saying you will have to discuss those things first. Maybe we haven't to any detail. That's a fair statement, but I'm saying if you want me, and I recommend other people to think this way too, if you ever want this to go past just you being some, you know, person on YouTube land, you're going to have to talk about those things to be taken seriously, you know. And so that's a fact. And I'm speaking on the flat earth people as well. A lot of them, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like, truth is compartmentalized, you know. Even like people who we think are the highest levels of truth on the world, on the earth right now, they're only allowed to teach a certain amount of it. It's not even, again, that they're necessarily evil, but they're just playing a role. They're playing their role in this narrative. And so, you know, they have to play their role. But I'm at the stage now where there are certain truths that I know, a handful of them, that I know are true. Like, or I'm very, very confident in their truth and their reliability. And I'm using those as filters to decide who I should take seriously. And so, you know, even some of the hardcore truthers, like the Hebrew Israelites, who bring out a lot of conspiracy theories and all that, there's a lot of things in their teaching that I know that I can reject their leadership, at least, as being evil. And I'm very thankful for those filters. And if anything, if people come to this channel and learn anything, it's like, take the 5 or 6 or 7 things that are very, very likely, if not we know now, are true. Flat earth, evils of central banking. First of all, God exists. America is in the least part of a lot of the evil on earth. You may not have to go to the extreme that it's the author of it and the mother of all harlots and all that, but all these things are like verifiable and right in front of us. This transhuman, all that stuff, like the stuff that Russian vids brings out are not conspiracy theories to us anymore. Like, forget about flat earth for now. All the other stuff he brings out, they're not conspiracies anymore. You know, 33 and 666 are absolutely all over the place. Hey, Mendel, what's up? And so you've said that the mark of the beast has to come in, or you'll throw the Bible. Yeah, I will. Shivite, what's up, brother? Yeah, I will. And the only reason I'm very, very confident in that is, first of all, I don't plan on being alive for 5 years. So that's kind of a, a hedged thing in my stance. But let's just say, theoretically, I'm here in 2024. I know for a fact if the world keeps going in this direction, the Bible cannot be proven to be true because none of the so-called elect, 144,000, could live in an environment like this. Because think about this: if I'm not God's child, like if I'm on God's left-hand side, which is his destructive side, deceptive side, and I'm complaining this much, how much are like his right-hand side complaining? And now let's say hypothetically I'm on his right-hand side, which none of us know for sure. How much more are his elect complaining? And so the Bible says that the end times will only be cut short for the elect's sake. And so, first of all, that means that the elect will be on earth during the end times. That is like not a stretch, that's obvious. So this quote unquote salvation is meant for God's elect and God's children, not just his elect, but broadly speaking, his children. And we hope that we are rescued. And so they would not function in a society like this that exalts homosexuality physically, that exalts it spiritually, that is happening to us mentally, intellectually. Our creativity is being stifled. We are not able to do any of the things that God would want. God is a creator. He is a creative entity. He wants independence. That's why he makes things outside of himself that can act independently. But we think that we appear independent, but he still controls us. How he does that, no one knows. But he wants things to be sovereign, to be independent. He wants creativity. He wants mercy. He wants righteousness. He wants purity. He doesn't like dirty stuff. Like, think about us. We go outside. I live downtown Houston. There's like homeless people everywhere. There's like human feces on the ground because like a lot of these homeless people don't even have a place to use the restroom, or animal feces and all that. There's sometimes homeless people laying down with like their pants down. You know, you can see their genitals and stuff. It's like, if we are repulsed by this, and I'm not saying that those people are repulsive, this is the broken condition that we're living in. If we as humans who are evil see that and be like, God, like, this is not clean for us, for anybody. We don't want homeless people laying on the side of the road with their pants down right next to feces. Like, you know, this shouldn't be like a really major thing, you know, that I'm bringing out here, but it is in this day. So how much more do you think God looks at that? Like, and the Bible says, if we are evil can do good amongst one another, how much more good is God? You know, God looks at that and he's, again, only doing it for a certain time. This is not going to go on forever. The only argument I think people can make is that, first, the Bible is not true, or second, the elect are not on the earth right now and they're going to be infused into bodies down the road, way down the road. And so that is the only thing that I think could prevent the end times from not being very visibly obvious in the next 5 years. Who are the 144,000? So I've done videos on that. They are 144,000 people, men, who are God's like chosen. They're basically like the closest entities to Jesus. Like, if we were to like go back in Jesus's time in the book of Matthew and really see all the men that were around him, you know, John the Baptist is obviously one of the elect, and the 12, you know, like the disciples and all that. It's like, it's all these entities, and the main distinguishing feature that the Bible talks about these 144,000 is that they're not allowed to lie. And so that's a very like distinguishing feature of these individuals, because lies will be very, very common and pervasive, obviously, in every generation, but in particular in the end times. And so they are going to be people who the Bible says have no guile. And so, you know, we don't know who they are, but even if we're not one of them, we want to behave like them. We don't want to lie. We want to follow God wherever he goes. They would be very charitable. They would be introspective. And they would be, what the Bible says, singing a new song, which is like If you are one of them, they're given insight into the end times. And so no one knows who they are. No, they're not all black people, because they come from the 12 tribes, and the 12 tribes are scattered throughout the whole world. God's children will look like every nationality on the face of the earth, and he did that on purpose, because the only reconnecting of God's people that's happening in this day is spiritual. And so people who are seeking truth, people who are charitable, people who are humble, who understand one sin is all sin, people who examine their lives with the greatest scrutiny before they go and judge other people, that person is an Israelite. That's a child of God, in my opinion. Yeah, a majority of the Jewish people, of the real Jews, they've descended from a dark-skinned lineage. And so we know for sure that they're not all light-skinned like in Israel. That's what I meant by that. Even every so-called Negro in America is not necessarily a Jew. We don't know that unless we had the records. But broadly speaking, the Israelites broadly were prophesied to come into slavery on cargo slave ships, but not all of them went into slavery here in America. They're scattered throughout the world. Some, didn't escape into Africa. Some migrated to like Iran, to India, to Russia. They've scattered. These are humans. Like, we don't have the record books, the videotape of human history and the scattering patterns of every single human. But a majority, if you're looking for, and this is not for everybody to get, I feel with the Spirit interacting with me that the real Jews of the Bible, a majority of them, are the so-called Negroes here in America, because their slavery also is a very unique form of embarrassment that is consistent with the God of the Bible. And if you don't like that the God of the Bible embarrasses people to bring about righteousness, well, then you're not going to like the verse of the chapter that I just read, where Jesus calls a woman a dog, but then heals her daughter. You're not going to understand. You're not going to understand this book at all if that's difficult for you to digest. But I think, again, if assuming the Spirit interacting with me is consistent with the God of this Bible, I can tell you with the Spirit interacting with me that the so-called Negroes in America, many of them are indeed the biblical Jews. Mendel's like, do we have free will? If we don't, how can we sin? We don't have free will. This whole movie, this whole narrative that's happening, we have, this is the mystery, actually, that it's difficult. And no one knows the answer of how God can create something and control it. It's like, it's the same thing with a husband and a wife. If those two people have a child, that child is independent in the sense that it obviously has the DNA and like some of the markers of the parents, but it's independent to think, and pursue whatever and run away if it wants to. But the thing that we can't understand is how God can make something and give it that sense of independence, but still know what that thing is going to do. In this case, I say thing because it's a spirit, like not a physical baby. So that's not something we know. And I honestly don't even know if Jesus Christ himself, and I'm not trying to be blasphemous, I don't know if he would know that either, because only the Most High, our Heavenly Father, the highest energy, the highest creative spirit can do that, and that's, first of all, knowing what the spirit world is. No one knows fully. That's a fact. People have engaged with it in many ways throughout human history. I don't debate that, obviously, but knowing just what a spirit is difficult, much less how a spirit can sort of split out from the Most High's jurisdiction, for lack of a better, or field, if you think of it as an energy, power. But how that separation can happen, only God would know, because he's the highest spirit. So having free will is a difficult thing to explain. God gives us the sense that we have free will, but everything that we do, he already knows what we're going to do. But the Bible says don't go and use that as a license to just do whatever you want, obviously. But that's the way it is. And that's just common sense. You don't even need the Bible to know that. If God exists, if there is a spirit that's out there, and he is the author of all this that we see, everything, just by like causality, he would have made everything. And one would think he wouldn't make stuff and just like let them do whatever they want, like just like set off some random experiment, or whatever, just goof around. One would not think that by common sense. But so he's able to create things that those things appear to have their own free will. But the whole narrative has already been decided. And so you'd have to understand the spirit world, all the different dimensions. You'd have to truly understand the mind of God, which is the title of my channel, not stating that I believe that I understand that to any completeness, but I feel we all go back to that when we die. Mendel says, my theology is that God gave this world to us. He talks to us softly if we listen. When we die, we'll eventually end up in his kingdom. Whatever that thing is that carries on beyond our physical body, that thing is God. And in my opinion, again, supported by this verse here, not everybody has that thing. That energy, whatever you call that, that carries on. To me, and the way that we'll know the people that for sure don't have that, if this is true, because it's speculation, because I don't know for sure, but even just thinking about it from an earthly perspective, those who are not quote unquote spiritual, they will take the mark of the beast. And it's not even necessarily their fault. They have no other choice. Like if there's nothing inside of us, or let's just use me as an example, I'm not going to take the mark of the beast if it comes out, and I don't want to be around when it comes, but let's just so I'm not putting anybody else on the spot, let's just use me. Let's just say that, I don't have a spirit in me, and I don't think about God, and it doesn't come across my mind about an afterlife or whatever. If the mark of the beast comes out and I'm forced to take it just to access my own bank account or money or to buy and sell and to eat, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to take it because there's no thought of like an afterlife. You just want to live. You're just flesh and bones. That person, whoever those people are, and I'm glad I'm not one of them, that even if I end up being wrong, I don't want to be one of them that just thinks that when you die and it's all over. I don't want that. And those are the people that are going to take the mark of the beast. They're not spiritual. They don't have a sense of the afterlife. They're just flesh and bones. They'll do whatever it takes to survive. And I'm not even saying that they're necessarily evil and they're going to undercut you. I think a lot of the people, like I said, are neutral. They're not necessarily pushing evil or enslaving everybody. They just go with the masses. Like there's a lot of people, millions and billions potentially, who just are programmed to just go with the masses. Like whatever the masses say, if the masses say today that the earth is a triangle, then the earth is a triangle. If next day they say it's something else, or if government tells them you only can wear yellow pants on Tuesday, then they just wear yellow pants, and if government tells them to put a chip in their hand, they put a chip in their hand. And so we are very thankful, whoever of us is out there, that we have the understanding that don't follow the government, even if they were righteous, but they're evil. And there is an afterlife. There is highly likely an afterlife. And we have faith that there is. And we have to do the works here that will make that afterlife pleasant, where we can be closer to God. However, whatever distance he allows us to be from him is a blessing. Okay, so let's see. Gaming with gaming, Demon RL. Oh my God. What's with all these gamers, man, on YouTube? I had a guy tell me to get a life, which is fine because people know that I'm like an end times guy. But I got told to get a life by a guy who's like a video game guy, and I'm like, that's like, there's some sort of hypocrisy in that. I thought that was kind of funny, but I've never been a video game person throughout my life, and I find it to be fairly degenerate. Our life here tells him and us who we are. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different like things, narratives, or ways to understand our existence that could have some truth to it. I just think of this very simply, like if there's a spirit out there, a non-human that made all this out there, then all of this would have to be his idea. Everything, like from the ants on the ground to the dust, to the earth, to the humans, to the everything, you know, and the Bible just makes it even more obvious because it boldly predicts the end. How else could it do that without a creator creating and narrating and micromanaging everything? How he's able to do that and then allow us to, for me at this moment, feel like I have free will. That's an incredible thing. How does God keep a ball earth or a flat earth suspended in the middle of space? How does someone do that? You know, we're dealing with an incredible entity here that we cannot understand. And so, and I've done this throughout my life, so I sympathize with atheists to some extent, but it's a bad idea to stay that way in these days. That don't stay at that point. You know, don't think, oh, it's so complicated, there can't be a God. No, it's complicated because of God. He doesn't do things simple. You know, think about how elaborate Hollywood movies are with all the effects and the detail and all that. Imagine what that's a human doing that, group of humans, with even like a fraction of understanding of all the math and science and visualization and imagery and all that. What would a God do? What would an infinite entity do? He would do this. Like he would make an earth and he would put people on it, and like that's what he would do. He would make a human body, put spirits in them, and control the storylines and teach us things and all that stuff. You know, like what else would God do? He wouldn't come up with something simple. So, you know, we have to give him credit for his infinite creativity. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Gospels are good. I think all the red letters and all that I've been drawn to throughout my life. I think they are the highest truth, you know, in the Bible, because Jesus makes statements that challenge a lot of the other verses, you know, and he really opens the door, in my opinion, to all people to invite to worship the God of Israel. It's not just the quote unquote Israelites. And so, you know, I challenge them as best as I can. The Hebrews, they do have some truth. They brought out, you know, some nuggets, but God is looking for people to worship him in spirit and in truth, not in lineage and theology. Ultimately, it is spirit and in truth, and we ask God to reveal more and more truth to us every day. No, we can't have free will because the Bible says the wicked are estranged from the womb. Stephen, this is why, dude, I'm not trying to be rude, but you don't know the Bible, man. Like, many places the Bible says that God is the author of evil. He's obviously the author of evil because the mark of the beast, if it comes true, he authored that. No human did that. So are you going to blame the people who are administering the chip and all that when it's not their idea? It was God's idea. So they don't have free will. They were just made to like take the chip, you know, and then this is the way it is. This, if you were here earlier, I read one of the many passages. Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. So who's doing the planting? Did you plant yourself here on earth? Did you decide who your parents were and what experiences you had, what talents you had, and what limitations you had, and all that? Did you decide that you were going to, you know, be, you know, born into the family that you were born into? Not a Muslim family, not a Buddhist family, not an atheist family. You didn't decide any of these things. So you're way behind in our understanding current day of the Bible. And I'm not saying that to be rude. You could be on God's right-hand side, but you have to start from scratch, man. Like you are, especially if you're a baller, you cannot come to the Bible with with Ball Earth. I'm sorry to tell you that. I think God will still convince a lot of ballers to not take the chip. I hope that that's the case. I hope everybody doesn't take it, but we know that that's not the case. But you're asking me to reread something when you obviously, I suspect you don't even know or have a narrative on who the Jews are. I don't know how much you know about the book of Revelation, and I don't know that you understand what is common sense to us now, that God is the author of evil. Reread it. It explicitly says Jesus was there from the beginning. He is God, and that though him, and that I think you meant through, and that through him all things were created. Therefore, he knows if we have free will. Yeah, he knows that. He knows that that we don't have free will. Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I think I read that incorrectly. You're right. Sorry. Yeah. But there's a lot. There's things that he doesn't know. You know, he doesn't know the timing of the end times, and there's no way that he would probably that he would know that. Sorry, you literally just said you didn't know if there is free will. No, I'm saying that there. If I ever said that there didn't know if there was free will, I would say that. Sorry, let me restate that. I know there isn't free will if the Bible's true, because it tells us what the end is. It says that the wicked are estranged from the womb, and it says God is the author of evil. So God is the author of good and evil. God has created everything. So there is no free will. And I used examples of how the fact that you did not decide what family you were born into and all that stuff. So there is no free will. If I ever said that I didn't know, yeah, I might have misspoke. But again, this is all assuming that the Bible is true, because I'm basing my teaching on that. So yeah, that is obvious. So you know, but the thing that's difficult in the Bible tells us is that we don't then use that truth to do whatever we want, you know, and that's the thing that we do have some responsibility, and that part I don't understand is what I meant. How God can create things outside of himself that think that they have free will, but they ultimately don't, you know, like God knows. And I have some theories on that using mathematics and stuff, but I don't think it's worth it at this point to discuss. But there might be ways that God can truly give us free will of some, or have some component of freedom. But there are many people on earth that just don't have free will. They are born into a role that you can go up to Hillary Clinton and ask her all you want, beg her all you want to stop bombing people, or to, like, you can go up to all the chip manufacturers and tell them to shut the facilities down, stop making these microchips to microchip people. It's not going to work. You know, it's going to happen. You know, if the Bible's true, it has to happen. And so people are just born into a role, and that is the complete opposite of free will. So the Bible speaks very much against that. Prophets, teachers, and leaders. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Yeah, it's like it's a mystery, you know. And to me, this is one of the many things that should lead us all to worship God, whichever God. Obviously, I believe the God of the Bible is the one. But you know, these are things that you don't even need a religion to tell you to worship God, because if God were to exist, everything that he would make, one would think, you know, he would do it for a purpose, and not be waiting for the outcome. You know, God's not like making something and then like worrying like, oh man, I hope this hope my paycheck comes in on time. I hope that, this person does that. And, he's not nervous or whatever. There's a lot of emotions God expresses in the Bible, but not worry about what he wants to happen. He's not worried about that. And he says it many, 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 many times that, in fact, the opposite, everything he does say does happen. And there's another example here that I just read where Jesus literally said in his own, whether verbally or in his mind, for a devil, a demon to leave this woman's daughter, and it left. So everything he says happens. Yeah, Mendel, Stephen and John and Mendel are talking about Jesus creating. All things were created through Jesus. Yeah, he is, to me, the sort of blueprint, the projection of the Most High in human form. And he was either involved or directly created all of this, and God is going to give it to him. This is ultimately his kingdom, this earth. He will rule it in the kingdom of heaven, and the 144,000 men will be under his rule, and then everybody will be in their place according to their works, and then that will be heaven. No, the mark of the beast is not money. And no disrespect. Now I'm not trying to pick on you, but I also get uncomfortable, and I have to be better about this, about who my mother and brother is and all that. Like, Jesus even calls his own mother out a little bit and says anybody who does the will of God is his family. And so if you believe the mark of the beast is money and not the chip, you are not my brother, to be totally honest. And I'm not trying to be rude because I don't know who you are, but I don't want to be around you if you believe that. The mark of the beast is, you can argue if it's going to be a slightly more sophisticated version of the RFID chip, but it's that development is satanic. The money system is needed as the sort of lube, as the fluid that will flow through the RFID chip and all the compute infrastructure worldwide. But no, the mark of the beast has to be a physically implanted device in the hand or in the head. And we see that happening, this whole Big Brother state, this daddy YouTube, like shutting down live streams just because you say a curse word, or porn bombing. I'm not saying porn is good, but whatever, just delete the video, just let them delete the video and then move on. Now we got daddy YouTube shutting down channel, shutting down Russian Vid, shutting down Eric Dubé, shutting down every flat earth channel under the sun. If you speak out against these hoax shootings and all that, you'll get a strike and all that. So it's here. The mark of the beast is just the final technological expression of what we're all experiencing. And if you're not willing to admit what we're all experiencing, there's something else going on, and that person is definitely not my brother or sister, mother, father, whatever. The word charagma absolutely does not go back to money. I have looked it up. It's like stitch. It's like a cut. It's like an imprint and all that kind of stuff. So it's some form of technology that, again, it makes sense, because everything about right now, like our phones are tracking us. My phone is probably passively listening to this conversation. People have said that YouTube is taking videos, transcribing them to text, and then looking for terms that will, cause them to, put strikes against you. So it'll look for the terms. So it's doing searches even on like audio, and we're being, spied on in the streets with cameras. I saw an article where even TVs that have webcams potentially are recording us all the time, and even like the webcams on our laptops are actually recording us and we don't know it. All that kind of stuff. So prophets, teachers, and leaders, this is a question for you. If the government forced you to put something in your body in order to access your own money, would you do it? Yes or no? This is the $1 million question. And if you answer one way, I'm absolutely not going to take you seriously for anything else. So if you are an individual who will do that and is dumb enough and faithless enough to do that, and is a degenerate enough to do that, you don't believe in an afterlife, because you don't believe in a God that would look at that movement as an evil thing. And then you obviously wouldn't have the understanding, which many of us have now, that not only is it evil, but God is behind that evil. God is doing this, and he's warning his children, which I feel, I am, I hope I am. And what I say, other people resonate with more and more now, that God is behind it, and he's telling us to not take it, even if it costs us our life, because the kingdom of heaven, Jesus says, even the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than the greatest person, here on earth. Just getting in is something glorious. And so, dying, being out of this system, even without the mark of the beast, is like a relaxation for us. Like, it's like, what else is there to do here? Like, work a slave job for 40 to 60, 80 hours a week so you can have a beer on a Friday, and then continue to be groomed and conditioned to be a homosexual in this environment. Like, that you'd have to be an idiot to take a chip in an environment like that. It's going to be difficult for people who, have money, have comfort, and have stability. But I have a feeling a lot of God's children don't have that, because the way to attain that in this day and age is to be a swindler, and or to work yourself to exhaustion and stuff. So I don't think that it'll be a really difficult decision for a lot of people. Yeah, exactly. That Leviticus verse that he just posted, Leviticus 19:28, "Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord." So yeah, if the government ever, I suspect I won't be around for this, but let's just say I am, and that comes out, and I sense that it's coming out, I am absolutely out of here. Like, I will find the nearest, and I'm glad I do not know how to swim, because I will not need that skill. I am getting out of here. I don't want to be around people who would even consider that for a moment to be a good idea. I don't even want to, I'm not going to debate them. If people want to go get their chip, I'll point them out in the direction to go to the nearest Walgreens, and I'm going in the absolute opposite direction, and I'm out of here. I know God exists at that point. Flat Earth, again, like I said, is 75% pat on the back. It looks like I've seen some videos of the Quran supporting flat Earth as well, which in my opinion is actually encouraging. Muslims and all that to be reaffirmed that God exists. Hopefully they hopefully God gives them understanding on the mark of the beast as well. But mark of the flat Earth is a big 75% pat on the back for the Bible, and for God, obviously. God 100% pat on the back. Bible 75% pat on the back, and the only thing that's left, in my opinion, is this mark of the beast to be forced. And at least the mark of the beast is here. It's not like some theoretical pie in the sky. There's no way that they would ever do that. The technology is so foreign to us. No, it's like already here. Our phone, all that, everything is being fabricated smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I suspect they've had this technology ready to go for a long time. Just like when we got the internet in 98 or 99. It was being used way before that. So anybody who thinks the mark of the beast is going to come out without sophistication is clueless to the amount of intelligence that's out there that's working in covert ways. And God does this because, again, if God did this in the forefront, we might be able to push back and not allow it to happen, but it would also overwhelm us. Like, if we literally could see video right now of like engineers and cryptocurrency people designing the mark of the beast infrastructure, I mean, a majority of God's people, at least some of us, would be like jumping off the nearest bridge, because we're like, what's the point of being here? Like, I don't want to be around when like shit hits the fan, literally. So, again, God keeps these things under wraps for a time, but the Bible does say that all the secrets will be uncovered in our own life in judgment, but also the secrets here on earth are being uncovered because God's the one who started the secrets. He made all these secret societies and Masons and Jesuits and all this stuff. He made all these pockets where information was kept, and he's just opening it now. And flat Earth was a major release of truth, and he does it in a controlled way through people. And you know, but ultimately the people that are shilling, the people that are on God's left-hand side, who have a mark that God will not accept their worship or their pleas at all, is if they take this physical mark of the beast. So don't do it. Why wasn't it UPC codes as a tattoo? So the main thing is the distinguishing feature of this prophecy is that it's worldwide. So whatever the technology is, and again, this puts the Bible in a very kind of awkward position, is that it's asking, it's saying it's going to hit a grand slam. You know, it can't come and hit a home run, a double, a triple. You know, it can't. It's asking, it's saying that it's going to hit a grand slam. And so this prophecy has to literally touch every human being. It's going to be a difficult thing. That's why I think the only way it's possible is if there's a foreign invasion and this so-called rapture happens first. And that's going to be what kicks off the end times. And in my opinion, those people who are raptured, whoever they are, those are God's children. Those are God's elect. And then there's going to be a second phase of people who go through this quote unquote tribulation period that the Bible talks about. And they will refuse the mark, and then they will be killed physically. And but they will be given white robes, and they are part of God's fold as well. So if I'm not taken, let's say the Bible's true and it's in the next few years, which I think it is, and I'm not taken and I die, I'm not waiting for someone to kill me. I just take my own life. You know, the chip is not getting in my body. Yeah, I think what that's prophets, teachers, and leaders brings up a good point. It's he's like, what doctor is going to perform 8 billion brain surgeries? So the way I understand the mark of the beast in the forehead is that it could be spiritual in the sense that people, the forehead and the brain and the mind is used to like govern, you know, like a person's mindset, you know. And so the people implementing the mark of the beast already have that spiritual mark in their brain, in their understanding. They're pushing the technology, and so they're already marked spiritually. That could be one way to explain the one on the head. But then also to be actually on the head makes sense. Like obviously Elon Musk and all them are coming out with like Neuralink and all these different companies, but I think there's going to be a relatively significant gap between the rapture and all of the end times, because to me it doesn't make sense that the rapture would happen and then, you know, just chaos erupts and then, you know, everything just sort of melts down after that, because that wouldn't make sense to me. You know, to me, in order for people to like worldwide take the chip means that there would have to be a period of where things are weird, but then they would have to return to like calm for a while, you know, and like day-to-day stuff would keep going, you know. And in my opinion, that's why there's a lot of push towards like robotics and replacing humans with machines and stuff, because there's going to be like people missing according to the Bible. And so, you know, there's going to actually be needed to have more automation and stuff. And so I think there's going to be a time period after the rapture where things are kind of normal again. And then, you know, but accelerated, you know, and people will then be told a story like, oh, we have people missing, you know, like there's all this, you know, there's these foreign people. We just want to keep track of you, you know, and in case, you know, whatever, and we'll put a chip in your body and it's safe anyway, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's going to be some false narrative that it's a virtuous thing to do. And the rapture will be one of the things that will be used to motivate the chip. And so, yeah, there might be like years and years and years, you know, and like it could actually go into the brain, you know, in certain people, if you have like, and again, like I said, technology that we know now, there's way more out there. And so they probably have cures for lots of different things, you know, cerebral palsy and all that kind of stuff. And so they could say, you know, this chip, if we put it in your brain for those people maybe who are born with those deficiencies, and then they actually use it to like quote unquote perform miracles. Like they actually will show on TV like someone getting a microchip implant. And again, this is all speculation, but this to me is like could be one of the ways that it plays out, is that like they show like the chip implanted and then a person is like quote unquote healed, you know, from whatever they're struggling with. So it's possible, you know, and I think that again, to me, the only thing that makes sense strictly from the standpoint of the elect is that the rapture has to happen first, because even non-religious people are getting tired of this place. Like they're either running out of money, they just get that it's a scam now, and they realize that you have to be a borderline homosexual to survive. And so if they're aware of that and they understand that there's a false narrative being fed to us from all different directions, how much more are the elect who are closest to God, believe there's an afterlife, are spiritual, don't want to be labeled effeminate, which the Bible says if you're effeminate, you can't get into the kingdom of heaven. So how much are they going to complain? So to me, this quote unquote rapture can't be that far away. Again, if the Bible's true. The Lord told us what the mark is. There are 2,300. Dude, you didn't. So you said you wouldn't take the mark if it was forced by the government. I don't understand why you think that it's money, because that doesn't make any sense. Rich and poor, free and bond, receiving a mark, money, that doesn't make sense. Like rich is people who have lots of money and poor who have less money. How could that be the thing that distinguishes you know, what the mark of the beast is? That doesn't make any sense. It's obviously something electronic, and it has to be kind of like a ledger type system, because you know, that's what our money, quote unquote, money system leads to, has become right now. It's purely digital. It's not anything physical. It's just a number on a screen. Yeah, Stephen. Yeah, Stephen's right. The mark literally is stated to be a physical thing in the hand or forehead. Like that's, I can get the verse and read it if you want, but I mean, it's like obvious. I'll pull it up. Okay, so Revelation 13. Take a look here. Well, dude, if you're teaching it, like with all due respect, we have to get this correct. So again, if I'm wrong, I'm obviously open to hearing it. But again, it's like, it's obvious, this big brother, this like worshiping of not money. The biggest thing that's being worshipped right now is efficiency. It's everything has to be faster, more convenient. It's a lot easier. You know, and all these like hoax shootings at Pulse nightclub and all that, they're like, oh, I don't know where my son is. It's like predictive programming. They're conditioning you to almost want a microchip, just so you could like track the person in case something happens. So prophets, teachers, and leaders says, look up charagma. So charagma, this is using the blue letter. Charagma is a stamp and imprinted mark. Of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist. The mark branded upon horses, things carved, sculpture, graven work. Yeah, so things carved, sculpted, or graven work, a stamp or imprinted mark. I mean, I don't know how much more clear that needs to be, man. Like this, for the Bible to be true, it's something in the body. And again, we have all the technology that's happening. And, you know, that's very, very clear. Money is not something that a person can refuse, because the Bible later talks about the punishment for those who take it. And it's not like having, you know, digital money or access to it. It's a physical mark, a decision that a person made, which is more fundamental. It essentially your allegiance to this techno system, this transhuman technology is great. Everything's great with technology and efficiency and more profit, more all that stuff, more automation is it's buying into all those ideas. And then all that is therefore is to make the elite more and more money and treat us more and more like a robot. Yeah, Steven's like he chipped their dog, and so that's a great example of like what the chip is for, you know. And God's like, if you're going to take the chip, he views you as a dog. And I'm speaking to myself. Anybody who takes the chip, like we are, you know, humans, and we will do that to our animal to keep track of them. And then so we view our dog as a dog. Like obviously we, you know, we love the dog, and you know, some people love their dog, take care of it, but whatever, like they care about their dog. They want to know where it is, but they will, you know, put a microchip in their dog. But and then that's what Satan does. Satan's like, I care about you. I just want to know where you are. And he's going to be like, so I'm going to put a microchip in you. And so what we do to the dog, Satan does to the left-hand side. And my recommendation for those who have an ear to hear is first, don't even, it's not a good idea in any generation, even if the Bible didn't say it, but the Bible does say it. And then even on top of that, it has a punishment. And then even deeper than that, it means that you are not part of God's fold. So this is where you could say that we have quote unquote free will. You know, anybody with, to me, common sense shouldn't take it. But we even don't have free will, because in the last moment, a person who we think would take it may not. And then a person who actively speaks out against it, like I do, it's up to God. You know, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I could get in my car and get plowed by a transport. I have no idea. So no. So Stephen's asking if I've received special revelation. Absolutely not. I think that the only sign that we know that we're in the end times leading up to it, again, I think flat earth is a big precursor, but are the elect, and no one knows who they are, so you can't go up and ask them, but we know certain characteristics of them. And again, the strongest evidence that I have that we're in the end times is that even non-religious people are complaining. So if non-religious people are complaining about how weird the world is and how messed up it is. I remember I was going to the elevator and took the elevator up with like a gentleman and probably his son. And just randomly, like somehow the topic came up. He's like, the whole world needs like a cleansing. Like it's just so chaotic. And it's like, all you have to do is watch like the quote unquote news or like what's going on in the world and see just how honestly stupid the world is. Like there's a lot of wars. There's a war going on in India and Pakistan right now. No one has any idea why they're fighting, what's going on. And no one even talks about it. You know, like I have people that I know who just don't talk about it, who are from those countries, you know, and like I'm from India and like no one cares, you know. And why else would that be except if God's doing it and exacting judgment on people, and it's none of our business. God has to be behind this, because there's no other way that this would be going about the way that it is. And then again, if you're a flat earther, it makes it even more obvious. Yeah, Stephen's right. It's I agree. I don't have special revelation, and I agree that I have to catch myself sometimes, because a lot of times I say 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000%. Yeah, I don't know with 100% certainty. I don't even know with 100% certainty the Bible's true until this thing actually happens. And I may not even be on earth to see it. So, but everything is shaping up and looking real end times-ish. And so again, either to me, it's very, very close because the elect would be suicidal, or it's way down the road, or it's not true. It's one of those three options. You are listening to the wrong men that are preaching the RFID chip is biblical. I'm confused, man. Prophets, teachers, and leaders. What do you mean by that? Yeah, the RFID chip is absolutely. We don't even need the Bible to know that that's not true. If I go up to anybody and tell them to put something in their body so that, and it doesn't have any purpose at all, it's not useful. It doesn't help you to put a chip in your body for anything. It's like putting a foreign entity in your body permanently. It's unhealthy. It's just to express this big brother left-hand satanic agenda that's going on. That's all it is. You said you'd burn the Bible. Yeah, for sure. But you have to understand, I know that I'm very unlikely I'll be on the earth in 5 years. But again, let's just say hypothetically that that's true. 5 years from now, 2024, the mark of the beast is not forced. Yeah, I don't think that the Bible can be true, or in the very least, it's not relevant to me, because I don't see how the elect could live on earth like this, because you can't, even if you're a quote unquote CEO, you're paid to lie. And like the Bible goes against that. So you're not allowed to keep the commandments of God on earth right now. I used to work at Amazon. I can't go to Amazon, work every day, see the hourly workers being brutalized. All they give them is like coffee, and they have access to garbage food in the vending machines. I can't go and tell them, look at all the injustices, how cheap they're getting paid. They're getting paid nothing. The working conditions are awful, all that kind of stuff. I can't do that. And that's what God wants. You know, Jesus overthrow the money changers and all that. You think Jesus would walk this earth right now and just be hunky-dory with everything? He would be flipping over everything, you know? And so the 144,000 are not Jesus Christ. I'm not putting them anywhere near that level, but they have characteristics of Jesus. Like they would get riled up over similar things. And so you cannot, and the Bible says the effeminate will not enter the kingdom of heaven, and you are required to be effeminate in this world because it's anti-God. But the only thing that is strong, virtuous, manly, powerful, all that stuff is a person who fears God. You know, if you're a person who doesn't fear God, what are you going to do? You're going to bend over for this system. You're going to take the mark of the beast. You're going to do whatever women want you to do. You're going to be like soft. You're going to be swayed by whatever's happening in the world. And Jesus says that if you do not root your life on him, the waves are going to come and just the wind's going to come and blow your house down, you know? And so that to me is the strongest reason why I'm fairly certain we're in the end times, because the world is unlivable for the non-righteous, and definitely for the righteous, or those who want to be righteous. Yeah, they're virgin. They are said to be virgins. Their skin color, you know, they're going to be people from all different backgrounds. There's going to be Chinese, 144,000. There's going to be even Jewish. There's going to be so-called Negro, so-called Hispanic, white, everything. There's going to be, they're scattered. The Bible says they're scattered, and if you understand the God of the Bible, it makes sense why he would do that. He has scattered his people, and he knows where they are. He doesn't need a microchip to figure out where his children are. Only Satan needs to know that. So Stephen, the Jews are just one of the 12 tribes. There's 12 tribes. Judah, which Jesus comes from, he's a Jew. There's 11 other tribes, and all 12 of them are scattered. 1.5 volt, what's up, man? Welcome. Talking end times and all that. You're a flat earther. Is your mind godly, and how did you manage to godlify it? That's amazing. Wow. So the title of my channel is not that I understand the mind of God. I feel like it's the only thing to pursue. And I feel like if God exists, we all just, again, by common logic, that's our home. That's where we all existed. Everything that we've ever done as humans has started in our mind as before it became an action, a creative expression. And so the Bible says we're created in God's image. So I would suspect he has a mind and an ability to create. We are a result of his creative expression. And so our quote unquote home is the mind of God. That's why I label my channel that way. No, not all the 12 tribes of Israel are all black, but a majority of them, could be. I mean, but there's quite a few that have been scattered throughout the world and intermingled with all different races. And so if whenever they have kids, they're going to look like partially like whatever, the women that they, created offspring with. All 12 tribes were Jewish, not just Judah. So the word Jew comes from Judah. So that's why we know that those Jews in Israel are not the real Jews too, because they don't even know what the word Jewish means. They wouldn't even be able to tell you that it comes from Judah, which is a tribe. And there's 11 others that they wouldn't be able to recite any of them. Big up the prime source creator. Yeah, man, Shivites, it looks like more and more, man. We are an expression of an entity's creativity, and that's an extremely difficult thing to wrap your mind around. But in the meantime, I would encourage people to think about the mark of the beast, and it's bubbling. It's like coming out more and more, and I would encourage people to really consider that development and whether the government forces anybody to do anything, and how evil that is. All right, guys, man, I went a lot longer than I thought, but the last thing I wanted to say, I guess, on flat Earth is, I'm not sure if I got to make this point earlier, but, everybody has their own experiments and stuff, and it's good to think about those and brainstorm ones, even if you don't have the resources or the money to pursue them. It's good to put them out, in whatever way that you can, and share them. For me, again, my level with the drones and all that, that's, something like that is what I would need to verify that gravity exists. And then to me, after that, the Earth is a ball. But whatever people have, and like Zoom Truth recommended one and all that, I think, again, the more we hit this thing from different angles and different experiments, again, the shape is not changing. So it's a good thing, and I think I'll try and think of more. I did kind of in my mind try and think of a few before this live stream, but I don't know. It's just a really difficult thing. Like, if you have infinite resources, obviously it's very, very easy. And we could find out, in a couple hours, but it's more like how to brainstorm, problem solve something with constrained resources and limited resources, but make it still linear, repeatable, and observable. But there's a lot of ingenuity on the Earth, and so I'm sure it's going to what's this? A Large Hadron Collider. Oh my God. Steven, dude, you guys are making it like obvious, man. Like we know just by the fact that you're giving us nonsense. Like, man, you guys really need to like just get in a room and like talk to each other, man. Like, concede certain evils that are going on in the world. Make it at least slightly believable that what you guys are doing is like virtuous or true. We know you guys are just madness, man. Like, you're sending me a link on a Hadron Collider. I'm trying to come up with off-the-shelf, linear, repeatable experiments, and you're sending me gibberish. And wow. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but you're making it literally very, very easy to be flat earther. Like, it would be more confusing to me if like ball earthers were like pushing other truths, but they're not pushing a single one. Like, it's literally like you're making the decision for us. Like, we know that I know that the earth is flat, or the earth is capable of being, the shape of the earth is capable of being hidden, because there is already a financial deception that's coordinated worldwide. I already know that. Like, it's like in the mainstream, it's like you don't even have to be a CPA like me to know that the markets are manipulated and controlled centrally, and stocks are going up and down. Elon Musk smokes a joint, stock drops. You know, it's like they're all the bets are being placed, and they know what the bets are, and they're manipulating and managing the markets. Like, that's mainstream news now. And so the entire world is getting their retirement savings fleeced, stolen every time they go to bed. And that's, again, mainstream. So I don't know, man. Like, all I can recommend is you're on the wrong team, dude. Like, you're pushing something with a group of people that are just obviously lying. Like, it's like it's like it literally couldn't be more obvious. And I almost feel bad, because like I wish it were slightly harder to discern, but thankfully God's mercy is making it easy for us. You cowards won't talk about any other evils in the world. The only evil you guys want to discuss is the evil of flat earth. So now Steven Steen is saying I'm intellectually dishonest, when I'm telling him that he only will intellectually engage in one topic and not the vast other things that are out there that are obvious. And so dude, I want to see, if I go to your channel right now, what will I see? What evils are you speaking out against? Let me see. I better see something good. Okay, so he's got, okay, so you have 191 subs. And unless I'm missing something, I see like 4 videos. And then I'm being accused of being a beast when I'm talking about the beast system and how it's everywhere and has permeated even my own life and my own decision making. So just for the sake of those flat earthers out there, you know, rest assured we're on the right track, because we have people, we have controlled opposition, just like in the verse that I read, the chapter. People are questioning Jesus with like stupid questions. You know, like, why don't your disciples wash their hands before they eat? Like, you're going up to somebody who's healing everybody left and right, and then you go and ask them, why don't you go, why don't your people wash their hands? Okay. Then we have ballers who are coming up to us, sending us links to stuff that we can't verify ourselves, is like light years away, telling us just to believe that people have come up with the dimensions of the universe by people like Fight the Flat Earth, who we know are obviously lying on many, many things, making up stories about different things. And he has all these degrees and like did all this kind of stuff. It's like, come on, like, at least go to acting school. Like, we know for a fact Fight the Flat Earth is acting, making up stuff. Like, it's a money thing. And I'm not even necessarily trying to knock his hustle, but because he's putting effort forward to make videos, but at least like be slightly believable. Come on. Like, these are not straw man arguments, man. Like, it's not even an argument. I'm just stating what's happening in the world. Like, we're seeing people, you can't fake truth. Like, you can't fake it when somebody is sincerely, intellectually grounded and solid and not hiding anything. Very, very smart people, they enjoy sharing their knowledge like many of them, not all of them, there's always like assholes here and there, but they want to run their ideas past other people. They want to share their discoveries. They want to see if they can explain what they know to a layman to help them feel like they really understand it. And so, you know, we're starting everything from scratch. If you want us to take anything you have seriously, we're not. Like, we're starting from first principles. Yeah, and I honestly, I don't want to engage with you because you haven't made any, I don't trust you intellectually. Like, why would I go to you when I already have an undergrad and a master's in engineering and a master's in accounting and a CPA? What are some random troll who has 4 videos on his website? What are you going to offer me in a discussion? I posted a video of what I would need to prove that gravity exists. It obviously doesn't. And if you rub a level across a flat surface, it's going to read level. And if you want to go and prove that otherwise, go for it. You know, like, then you're just going to come to our side. We're not coming over to you. We're not running. I'm not running any ideas past you. You don't know that we're living in the end times, which is fairly obvious to a lot of people. Mark of the beast, Jesus is black, America's Babylon, God exists, kingdom of heaven is to be established. God is the author of good and evil. I mean, these are all like plainly obvious. All the stuff Russian vids brings out, like I said, is not a conspiracy anymore. Like, newsflash, as of March 3rd, 2019, Mind of God declares what Russian vids brings out is not a conspiracy anymore. It's everywhere. 33 and 666 is absolutely everywhere. Sorry to burst your bubble. And if it bursts it even more, your ball earth bubble, God is behind the deception. We know that. God would not do this and leave everybody on earth hanging and not tell his children, give them some insight that he's behind it. We know that he's behind it now. Who else could orchestrate central banking, printing fiat money, charging interest on money that has not been earned, but just 50 people control 95% of the wealth on earth? Like, does that make any sense? What kind of human wakes up and says, yeah, I'm going to build nuclear bombs and I'm going to bomb Pakistan tomorrow? Like, that's not, hey, what's up, Manny? I'm on my soapbox now, sorry. But, and Seek and Find, what's up, dude? Welcome to the YouTube family, man. But so, like, nuclear missiles and all this shit, man, like, it's not this is not man's ambition. It's not even man's ambition to enslave people financially, because if you do it too much, it creates an unstable world, which is what we have now. Any, like, quote unquote rich person would want wealth, but they wouldn't want the gap to grow too much, because then you'll have poor people who have nothing to lose, which is what's happening. And you just have to walk around downtown Houston and see a lot of homeless people. And again, if you walk across one on the wrong day and they've taken the wrong drug, you know, that's life, you know, and it's not good, and I'm not making light of it, but you do not want the disparity to get too big. And it's huge now. And again, it's mainstream news. Like, Zero Hedge is more mainstream now than ever. I heard MSNBC talk about Zero Hedge articles. And so the gap is huge. The numbers don't lie. The money is in less and less people's hands, and it's happening every single day. And so the separation of wealth is happening every day. And so it leads to an unstable system. And so the only person or entity that can be behind this is God. God is behind this. We're standing on an earth right now that is suspended in the middle of space. Like, what human could do that? Whatever shape you think it is, you know, whoever's the few people that are watching, whatever shape you think this earth is, just, if you remember anything from this live stream, just know that it is, this thing that we're standing on is suspended somehow in free space. So you tell me what kind of human could make that, or you tell me what kind of statistical outcome could create that. If you know anything about statistics, you know, you will know that complexity and a complex outcome requires occurs with less and less probability. So this kind of system that we have, this ball Earth flying through space and all that, is very, very complex. Is impossible statistically. That's obvious. It's that doesn't make sense. And so God is real. There is a God, and my channel is now sort of moving past that and like trying to build my faith and others, but then also warn people about the mark of the beast, which I feel is coming soon. And it looks like the world is getting worse. There's going to be more and more evil, though that's prophesied in the Bible. But for those out there who have an ear, be encouraged by the fact that all of this pain and all of this suffering will not go on forever. Even Jesus Christ, who lived a perfect life, died a grisly death, he's not experiencing that pain, wherever he is right now. And we have to have faith and believe that. And so the small amount of suffering that we go through now, it will not be in anywhere near the comparison of being in the presence of God in the spirit world, whatever that is. And the Bible says no one knows, no one can even imagine what God has prepared for those that love him. And so, that's what this channel is all about. And I think, again, Flat Earth has been a very, very powerful thing for me to, wake up first and foremost to the fact that God exists. So 1.5 volt doesn't have anything better to do but just to come in here and type things. But Bible is fake and page 1 proves it. That's funny that it's amazing that page 1 is looking more and more on point right now than ever. Sun and the moon, two great lights in the firmament. We're starting to realize that our existence is finite, but the entity that created it is infinite. So page 1 is actually looking real good. Yeah, 1.5 volt makes a good point that I'll end on. Truth is more important than your feelings. That's a powerful thing. I think that that is very, very true. And he's speaking from probably the atheist perspective, but for those of us who are, spiritual and inclined towards God, that is a good thing that I can end on, is that the truth which we feel who are Christian is Jesus Christ, and that his existence and his work and all of that, all of the things that he's created, all of that is more important than our feelings. And so all that stuff that we're going through, have gone through and will go through as this beast system sort of ramps up, those ups and downs and maybe more downs, that we'll end off on what 1.5 volt says, that the truth is more important than those feelings. And that's well said. Yeah, Manny, it's all good, man. Like, we have to, laugh a little bit. I think for me, it's been difficult, but we have to still find a way to be a little bit lighthearted, because we know a lot of these people are not coming in the right spirit, and they're controlled opposition. Hopefully they don't remain that way. But again, a lot of them, it's becoming obvious. Like, if you're around people who don't want to talk about the obvious evils in the world right now, and are still talking about voting and the next person's going to be the one who fixes America and all that. I mean, that takes a lot of faith. That takes more faith to believe in that than to believe that God exists and we could be in the end times. So, that's a scary thing, that there are people out there that God can make like that. And so, I just, I had about, 5 to 10 people, watching, and, I appreciate people who come by and all that. And so, I'll try and have a bit more sort of flat earth focus if that's what people are interested in. But, if anybody ever has, things that they want, me to try and go through, or, have specific topics, certainly feel free to email me. My email's on the banner of my channel. I check it on my phone pretty quickly, so it's a good way to get in touch with me. But I'm going to kind of stick with this routine of finding a chapter to go through, and then discuss what I see going on in flat Earth, and then just hopefully at some point, if we're lucky, celebrate a linear, repeatable, observable thing that many people have done. But I don't think we're very far from it if it's not already there. I just haven't seen it yet. But to me, that's an incredible faith builder. Not so much that the actual shape matters in our day to day, but it raises our awareness of which book, of which religious text, of which God can we trust. And so if the Earth was flat, but the Bible was very clearly a spherical shaped book, stating that the Earth is a ball flying through space with sticky water, I wouldn't trust it for anything else at all. But again, we know now, many of us know now, that God is behind the deception. He has encoded his flat Earth lightly in the Bible, but it's still very, very obvious. There's even a guy on Non Sequitur, if you ever check it out, Trevor Valet. He was talking about how Isaiah 40:22 talks about flat Earth. So we have like ballers, like hardcore ballers, giving us sort of scriptural breakdowns about how the Bible is a flat Earth book. So, I mean, the Bible is a flat Earth book through and through. So if the Earth is a spinning beach ball flying through space, this Bible right here is untrustworthy. It's untrustworthy. So thankfully, it's a flat Earth book, and the Earth is flat. And now we have to see if it's going to follow through on its many other prophecies, but the most important one being the mark of the beast. Hugh Janis, MOG is here to muddy the waters. Yeah, maybe I am. There's a lot of waters out there that people are swimming in that they think are the right ones to be in, but they're not. And so I want to muddy those waters to get people out of that. Like I was. There was many years in my life where I was swimming around in the waters of making money, being high up in corporate world, getting lots of women, getting praise and acknowledgement from other people. I was swimming in that water for my whole life, and then flat Earth and other things have revealed the stench of that water, and I got out. To be totally honest, there's nothing in this world that is enticing for me, that motivates me to quote unquote make it, and all that kind of stuff. And so this channel is not for everybody. It will be very sort of gloomy, but I feel the times that we're living in now and are coming are going to be even more gloomy and obvious. But I just give you hope and encouragement that there's something beyond this, that there is a conditioning. Our body does die, but there is something inside of us that has to live on, and God will decide what happens with that. But we hope very much that we can be close to him. Seek and Find says, I may disagree with a few things, but for the most part, you're on point. Yeah, what's up, man? I think, a lot of this stuff is kind of conjecture, still piecing a lot of things that's going on in the world. So I'm a sort of student of this myself. But again, a lot of things are making it obvious. Just there's so many lies that it's making the truth like pop up much easier. So again, I'm very thankful for that. To me, that's an act of mercy, because God could make the truth way more camouflaged than he has. But, again, for a lot of us, just the behavior of ball earthers is proof that the Earth is flat. Just the behavior. Forget about the financial enslavement, which to me is proof of a worldwide conspiracy, and ball Earth is like a derivative of that. And not to mention the lack of bendy water that no one will ever see. And the list goes on. Gravity claims to be orthogonal, but no one knows how. You know, multiple forces of gravity are occupying the same space, but they're not interfering. That's magic. That's not the way a force that is within its own sort of characteristics doesn't do that. So the only way gravity is orthogonal is if G equals 0. And so the null vector is orthogonal with any other null vector. Shavite says, did you see the Alex Jones podcast on Joe Rogan's show this week? Yeah, dude, I saw that he was kind of like getting crazy and amped up and all that. So I just the way I kind of, I'm all kind of all in, as you can probably sense from my channel, with God. He's doing everything now, kind of, he's turning the dial up a bit. So things are becoming more exaggerated, you know, with this Owen Benjamin stuff, and then Steph Curry, and then, you know, Alex Jones is hanging around, you know, and because he still has a group of followers that people will watch him wherever he goes and stuff. So, you know, I just think God is kind of turning, in this like Space Force thing that Trump, you know, just happened to start up now, you know, all of a sudden, you know. So I think there's an awakening, like even at the quote unquote elite level. I call it the media, the actors, that what's going on outside of the dome. You know, I think you, myself, you know, Manny and Seek and Find and all these, you know, other people, Zoom Truth, and people who come by, flat earth people that you see, you know, where our minds are more, at least once in a while, we're thinking more about what's outside of this dome. And, you know, I think God is essentially kind of opening the door slowly to allow us and other people to worship him, And again, it's never a waste of time to do that, now more than ever. Yeah, Manny, just keep doing your thing, buddy. You know, keep sharing. That's all you can do. That's all we can do, is just calmly, you know, share what we know. We know now that I'm not moving. Those lights in the sky are moving. Do we know the exact path that they're taking, and what their substance is, what their makeup is? We don't know all these things with 100% certainty, but I can tell you for a fact that this building that I'm in right now has not moved, you know, today. It's still here in three-dimensional space. It has not moved. And but those lights in the sky, they've moved. As simple as that. All right, guys. Man, thanks again for coming by, and hopefully I'll see you guys again next weekend. You know, if you know, something comes to mind, but yeah, I appreciate people coming by and you know, just chatting. It's always good catching up with other flat earthers, people who looking for a narrative for our existence, and ultimately for hope for a life after. All right, guys, I'll leave it at that. Take care. Manny, Shavite, Seek and Find, and Stephen, we have quite a few differences, it appears, but if you're still around, you know, maybe we can come to more of a common understanding. But stay safe out there, guys. Take care. Bye.